Welcome back to the Good Fruit Show, where we are on a mission to explore how we can discover a deep sense of meaning and purpose in our lives. Today's guest is my good friend Riley Jarvis. He and I met a couple of years ago and have stayed in touch ever since. I distinctly remember texting back and forth with Riley, convinced he might think I was a little crazy with all my coaching and marketing ideas. But to my surprise, he stuck around, never once making me feel out of line. Riley is deeply passionate about the health space where he helps people become healthier, fuller versions of themselves, and I'm living proof of that. He introduced me to a diet called the autoimmune paleo diet, which has had a very meaningful impact on my life. Beyond me, Riley has helped countless others through his previous ventures, such as the sleep consultant and peak performance. He's also the mastermind behind an educational course called Superhuman, designed to help people become high performers in every area of their life. We've been bouncing ideas off each other since the inception of both of our programs, and he's helped me gain a ton of traction with my curriculum, and I hope I've been able to do the same for him. It's rare and really cool to have someone in my life with similar ambitions and who speaks the same language that I do. Not only is Riley a dreamer and a go getter, he's also a reliable, gracious, kind, respectful, and a joyous person to be around. He's a person of high character, and I'm grateful to call him a friend. As a quick side note, Riley has also gone through the story of my life exercise in my program, which should make this episode even more insightful. Riley, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you so much, DJ. It's a pleasure to be on the show.
Have you been noticing any compounding benefits from that exercise, by the way?
Yeah, it's been incredible. And what that exercise was just picking apart each, going back from childhood to teenager to the 20s to your 30s and seeing where it's all kind of taken you. And you asked me questions that in the moment really made me think, and it was really going through my glucose stores in my brain to try and find those deep stores. And sometimes it's frustrating. I'm like, damn, what's that thing? I don't actually know the answer. But once you find and you look back and you sit with it, like it just clears a bunch of stuff up for yourself. But then I forget how the quote goes or who it's from, but it's, through helping yourself, you help other people. And so through helping myself, this turned into like superhuman because I was always into the lab testing, Brian Johnson and everything, but I didn't really know the why. And I was reading these books like Story Brand and like, what's a brand actually mean? Because people remember brands. And my business would call like peak perform. Like there's a sleep consultant, great. Someone has a sleep issue, but there's peak perform and all these performance coaches. I'm like, what makes me stand out? And then it finally hit me of like doing these exercises and, my past of going to Asia and go to these like cyberpunk Blade Runner places and how that transformed into superhuman being like we're a video game character and we can upgrade our inner machinery. Like, that really all started a lot with your help and going through those and some of the testimonials we did, helping other people and just framing it and, the really like the heart of hearts with it all. And that's where it, since then it's just been like if I look back, that's the moment that it really gave me a lot of clarity. So I have you to thank for that.
Cool, man. Well, I mean, it's really all been you. It's just kind of the framework, really, I think that helps people of like those questions that you were talking about, going back and
Yeah.
revisiting those years and like you said, using your glucose stores in your brain. And it's frustrating, man. Like if you go through it the first couple of weeks, like for me, it increased my stress levels greatly, but
Yeah.
it kind of subsided after that. And, ever since then, it just feels like my life's a lot more integrated.
Mhm.
Enough about me. Like today's all about you, man. I just want to take some time to honor you, get to know your life story, get to know more about you. I've already kind of discovered a lot about you because you shared your exercise that you did with me, but I think it's just going to make today's episode even better. I'm super stoked for this.
Yeah, me too.
So we'll start off with some pretty easy questions, but when were you born?
I was born in January 1991.
So how old are you today?
34.
34. And then who are your parents?
So my dad's name is John and my mom's name is Lisa. And my dad was born in 1961 and Canada, and my mom was 2 years younger than he is in 1963.
And what were they like?
Uh, like them themselves, or me growing up with them?
You growing up with them, like what was your relationship like?
Yeah, it was always really strong. My mom was kind of the nurturing type. My dad was more of the he was the business guy. So I kind of had the best of both worlds. So I found myself really lucky, and they had a good dynamic. When I think I was in grade 8, they had separated, but yeah, everything, my dad was in the hotel business, and we could get into all of this, but we as kids got to go to like all these hotels for free, and he would stay at different, hotels. And the only downside is we had to switch cities. When I was in like elementary school, we moved to different cities in Canada. So it was making new friends all the time. I think I did it 6 times before grade 3. So it was a lot of transition. But we got to, I have 3 younger brothers, and it was just an amazing experience with all that, really.
So where were you born in Canada?
Vancouver, so all the way on the west coast of Seattle.
Okay. And you mentioned you had three younger brothers. Did you have any other siblings?
No, that's it. So there's 4 of us. I'm the tallest, and of course I'm the oldest. So I was the tallest growing up. But they pretty shortly after got all taller than me, so I lost the power pretty fast. So I couldn't use pure strength of power anymore. I had to start outsmarting them.
Dang, man. So, what were your siblings like growing up, and how old are they?
So they're all 2 years younger than me. Sorry, we're all 2 years apart. Now, one's 30, turning 31, 29, one's, sorry, 32, 30, and turning 28 this year. Um, but yeah, that we all got along pretty well.
What are all your brothers' names?
Uh, Below me is Connor, below Connor is Patrick, and below Patrick is Liam. So it's all Irish names.
Cool. Are you guys
Yeah.
Irish?
Yeah, like my parents aren't Irish, but my grandma was born in Ireland. On my dad's side, I'm a bit of a mix, so Northern European, but I've got like English, Scottish, Irish, and then some Austrian. So a bit of a mix there.
Cool. And what was it like growing up with younger brothers?
Yeah, it was good. We definitely got into fist fights and everything like that. I mean, brothers will be brothers, but the good news is we forgave each other like 10 minutes later. We go play a video game or something. Yeah, we did a lot of outdoor sports, and we did a lot of skateboarding and rollerblading. Yeah, I remember the early days before you were 16, you could drive a car. Like those are the glory days, because you would just be on bikes, and like I'd rollerblade everywhere. Like that was my thing. And you would just like rip on a smooth road and feel the wind blowing through your hair. And yeah, life felt pretty free back then.
It's kind of like that limitless feeling.
That's right. Yeah, it goes to limitless.
Um, so in terms of like your oldest memories, like do you have any first memories that you've kind of latched onto over the years?
I would say I've got like perfect moments and memories as a kid where everything just felt like a warm blanket, like where it's like Christmas Day, you're 3 years old. I think it's probably my earliest memory, being 3 years old, and just like you see all the presents at Christmas, you smell the turkey in the oven, you hear the music leading up to Christmas. And in Canada it's snowing, so it's like it really puts you in the Christmas spirit. You drive around and see the Christmas lights. And this is back in the 1990s, like different than it is today. um and so those were times you can sometimes think back to that were just like really, 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 really nice to reminisce on.
Is there any that like really stick out to you that you can just like recall all the details of?
Yeah, so it kind of funny, it was whenever I got gifts, I would get a lot of, because I was the oldest, and my parents, they wanted to, I don't know if it's a thing where you like spoil the oldest. I know it's a thing with an only child, but like as the oldest, I think like my brother below me, I must have been 3 or 4, and he was just like just under a year old, and just getting spoiled with just like a basketball hoop, or like a new Lego set, or just like Something that kids would just play around with. And I just remember having so much fun going to the water park, going down to Waterside for the first time, and just seeing the world for the first time. Like I can still picture different parts of seeing things for the first time when like today, it's like if you become desensitized to it because you've just been exposed to it so much. But I can feel these certain moments were so rooted that I could feel that they still stuck with me to this day.
And is there any like that you would be able to like recall, just like that, and like we could dive into some of the details of like opening one of the presents that you remember, or what it was like going to the water park, where that was at, who you went with, and things like that.
Yeah, there was this one water park in particular, and funny side story of this is like I remember going to this water park, but I actually got it mixed up with my dreams because I always used to have these dreams of water parks. And I thought that the layout of this water park was actually for my dreams, but it's actually a place that I went to as a kid. Anyway, only about a year ago, I found out. I was just like looking at this place. It's called Salmon Arm Water Park in Canada. And I looked it up and it was the actual thing. And I'm like, I was actually there as a kid. And then it brought back all these older memories. So yeah, we can go with the water park one. But yeah, I just remember going there and everybody just like the lushness of the trees and the greenery and seeing how bright the water was. It's a bit like the scene from Limitless where he sees everything, everything moves slower and it's brighter and the colors more vivid. Um, and I think I went with my uncle or my parents. That part I don't actually remember. I just have glimpses of going down the slide, entering the water park, and just being super excited. And yeah, like, my friends and family would sometimes call me Richie Rich. Not because I was rich as a kid, but I would walk into places almost like I own the place and just be like so happy to be there. Not that I thought I was above people, but just like hello, how you doing? Hello, hello. Just like keep going in. And I think I was doing it then too, so it's kind of funny.
That's really funny, man. So were you remember being pretty social as a very young kid like that?
Yeah, I remember being pretty social as a young kid. I think before the age of 5, I just remember being pretty social.
And then in Canada, did you go to like 4K
For
for
is that a certain kind of
kindergarten?
school? Oh, kindergarten.
Yeah.
I did do kindergarten. Yeah, not pre-kindergarten like I know some people do, but I went to kindergarten, which is what age? I guess like 4 or 5 years old when you go to kindergarten.
Kindergarten, I believe, is 5. And then like 4K would be like 4 years old. So that'd be like 4-year-old kindergarten, I guess you'd call it in the US.
Wow, that's amazing. Um, yeah, went to kindergarten in Canada, and I think that was in Vancouver. I'm trying to remember where it was now. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I was in Vancouver because there's 2 levels of kindergarten, I believe, and then you go to grade 1. Is how it works in Canada.
Okay. Do you remember like your first day or anything like that?
Yeah, I do actually. It was I actually remember being really timid on my first day of school going to it and not knowing anyone for the first time because I kind of felt like I was sort of insular and protected with my family and going to all these cool things and seeing everything that then when you see other kids for the first time and like a kid's like he's mean or he doesn't have like the same expression you're always used to being around it's a little bit like probably being on the Truman Show a little bit, and then you see outside of it and you see sort of what it is. For an example, like I'm close to Monaco right now, and I've talked with a lot of parents whose kids have grown up in Monaco, and then there's totally protective bubble, like it's so different than the outside world. But then the kids go to the outside world and they try to bring their kids to the outside world because life can be pretty comfortable over here and you just don't see what's outside. So a lot of parents try to assimilate it. But anyway, back to me. It was a little bit shocking, I remember at the time, and a little bit nerve wracking. And I don't at this stage, I don't think there's any bullying or anything like that going on, but just definitely felt a little timid.
I remember like my first day, like there was teachers sitting outside with like umbrellas, and then we would all get grouped together based upon the umbrella. Like one teacher would be holding like a turtle or like a something like that, and then we would all go to the assigned teacher. Did you guys have
Hmm.
anything like that on your first day?
Yeah, we definitely had that. I remember like big, I don't think it was an umbrella, but they were wearing like these big vests that were in certain colors, and you had to go, or maybe they were holding up like a sign or something, and you had to go stand there with them. And I remember thinking like these different thoughts of like, why do I have to do what they tell me to do? Like, why can't I go over here? And I remember these thoughts from a really early age. So looking back, that's probably the start of entrepreneurship.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really cool. So you were pretty social as a kid and then kind of transitioning into kindergarten. Were you not as social in the public sphere, or did you kind of get comfortable with being with people in the external world and, kind of lean back into your social character?
I would say I leaned. I think I was shocked at first, but I feel like I made friends, and I remember realizing that other people were feeling the same way I did, so they felt more relatable, so I could kind of be myself. And yeah, I think from there I just started making, just certain friends that, I just kind of got along with right away. And our vocabulary wasn't really big, but we could say certain words and create some relationship.
Huh. That's a that's a pretty mature thing to realize at that age, is like kind of seeing outside of yourself and then, recognizing, okay, these kids are going through the same thing I am. Like we have something to connect on and bond over.
Yeah. And I don't know if it was just like probably way different than the way I feel and see it now, but I think it was maybe just like in just a feeling, like when the brain's developing, I guess like just an infant feeling of what that is. Maybe it's kind of intuition, and my intuition is probably stronger than any of my qualities. So maybe that's what was really speaking to me most of the time.
Do you remember like anything you used to do as a kid? I know you mentioned like rollerblading, going to the water park. Did you have any like TV shows that you watched, or you remember any like music you used to listen to?
Oh man, yeah, I watched Spider-Man, but the old Spider-Man from like the 1960s or 80s. And I remember always watching those reruns. And like, and as a kid, I thought they were like brand new TV shows. Little did I know they were like 25 years older. So I would listen to, yeah, I would listen to, or watch Spider-Man. I remember getting like a glass of milk and a bunch of Oreos and being so excited to go watch Spider-Man. And then there was like Batman. I remember all the theme songs though. Like those were the big ones. This is around the age of like 5 or 6. And yeah, that was the biggest one. I had another memory. We had these neighbors in Vancouver, and they were kind of a little bit troubled, the kids. And I remember sticking my head out of the window, and they were stuck their head out of the window. And we were like really far apart, like yards separated. And they threw a water balloon from their backyard window to my backyard window, and they hit me in the face. My head got all wet. And anyway, yeah, it's just a weird memory. I don't even know what happened after that, but yeah, it's just strange. I have a lot of weird memories in that house. I remember just like building Lego connects. We also had a lot of Japanese exchange students who would come because my parents couldn't afford, you know, um, where we were living and everything else like that. So in order to make more money, we had these Asian foreign students. I think there was Korean and Japanese, and they would stay in the basement suite. And the government, I guess, would pay my parents additional money, and they would sometimes come upstairs and make us meals. But as a kid, I hated the food, but I had to pretend I liked it because the Japanese people would be like so friendly, and we really got along with the Japanese ones, but the Korean ones not so much sometimes. But yeah, it was just so many memories in that house. I can keep going on, but maybe you have another question.
No, I mean, feel free to explore whatever you want. I'm having a great time just exploring with you. Do you remember anything in particular about the foreign exchange students that you brought in? Like, I know you mentioned the food and things like that. Do you remember like how you felt about bringing kind of like strangers into the house and things like that?
Yeah, I remember feeling a little weird, like who are these people? And it was also associated with the basement, kind of like trolls under a bridge. So like it just felt scary to go down there. And especially in this part of the basement, it was sort of unfinished. And you could actually go up it was a weird basement because there was like a bedroom, but then you could like go up between like the main floor and where the stairs were, and it was like pitch black in there. Like only a place was pitch black where the spiders would hang out. It was all concrete, but there was this gap, and it would look like if there's a place Frankenstein would live, it would be there. So I would always be scared of this area, and plus the foreign exchange students lived down there. So it was for me, it was a scary place. And then I have another memory of my dad got this really scary Halloween mask of like a bald guy, and the face looked so good and it fit his face perfectly. And so when he moved his lips, the face mask moves its lips. And this is going back in the 90s before masks are like they are today. And he came up from the basement too. So I just have like all these memories from the basement of like that stuff happening. So I tried to stick to the upstairs as much as I could.
Are you still pretty afraid of basements today, or did that fear kind of go away?
It went away now, but only up until like 4 years, no, maybe 5 or 6 years ago. I had, I also remember being in grade three and we did this thing. I don't know if you ever heard of Bloody Mary, and we would say like, Bloody Mary, please come out. And you would like say it in a mirror. And it was something they would say of like midnight. You would say this, and a girl who looked like the girl from The Ring or The Grudge would come out
Right.
with like black hair and she would show herself. And that was really scary. So I remember being on the schoolyard in like grade two or three and like looking at haunted houses, and we would point over at the windows and thinking like, where's Bloody Mary? And I think that association with like dark places, the basement, it's just you, the boogeyman, or like dark closets, like as a kid at that age, everything feels super real, right? So
Oh
um
yeah.
definitely a different time.
So what did it? I know you mentioned grabbing like a tray of Oreos and getting some milk, and that was a big pastime for me too. Um, and then watching Spider-Man or Batman. Do you remember, what else you guys used to eat as a family when you were that young?
Yeah, besides the food that I hated that the Asian students would cook us, like dim sum and dumplings and like cold soup and stuff like that. We had a lot of basic foods. Like I think it was just a lot of like like we'd have chicken and roast beef was another big one we had. Beef on a bun, sausages, hot dogs, hamburgers. Just traditional family. And we'd sometimes have like a lot of desserts, apricot cake, zebra dessert, coconut cake. Yeah, I could still taste them now.
Do you remember if you were like a picky eater when you were young?
I was for this is actually a very interesting question because these experiences shaped the foods that I don't like now. So I don't like mushrooms. I used to not like zucchinis, but I like those, and I don't like olives. But mushrooms is like the biggest one. Like I will not eat it. Maybe like a mushroom soup if it's all blended together, but there's something about mushrooms, the texture of it, like I can just gag thinking about it. Same a little bit with like mussels and like clams and that type of food, but it is not related to this time. But my parents would always sneak mushrooms in our spaghetti sauce, but they would never tell us, but they would put it in a brown bag, like the produce bags, put it in the fridge in the vegetable compartment, close the door so we'd never know. And then they would blend in a blender so we would never know. And they told us like 10 or 15 years later that the whole time they put mushrooms in, and we said we didn't like mushrooms. And they did that because anytime we would see full mushrooms, we say we don't want to eat those. And then so they started blending it. And then they finally told us the secret. So that was kind of funny. So yeah, up to this day, I really don't like mushrooms except if it's blended or in a soup. So or if I don't know they're actually there. But anyway, yeah, yeah, with the foods and everything, yeah, kind of like basic, a lot of spaghetti. I remember, um, stuff like that. Like nothing stands out of like what's one food we had most. We'd have fish, but I wasn't too fussy with food besides those basic things.
And then like in terms of hobbies and stuff, I know you mentioned like building with Legos and things like that. Do you remember anything else you guys used to do as like a family? Did you do any like fishing or camping or outdoor stuff?
Yeah, we did fishing a couple times with my dad, and we would also go for a lot of family walks, parks. Vancouver's beautiful, especially this area where you're living in called North Vancouver. It's basically in the mountains. And in the mountains, you just have like these suspension bridges, especially in the summertime. It's just like this lush greenery. Like so much is there. Like it's so beautiful. So we did a lot of that. We don't know if we did too much camping ever, but there are a lot of bears up in that area. I don't think I ever saw one as a family, but I do have a lot of, there's so many cool lakes you can go out to. Like Vancouver is on the ocean, but even lakes you can go to. There's Vancouver Island, a lot of family around there. So we would go to different cabins and things like this as kids and explore. So I've got a lot of memories like on a boat. And Victoria is on so an area called Vancouver Island, and Victoria is even more green than Vancouver is in its own way, and it's more. It's hard to describe, but it's almost more magical in a way because it's more serene. I think it's one of the number one retirement places in the entire world that people go to, just for how slow it is, and you can drive out that whole entire island. It's just so beautiful, calm, and peaceful, and it's got a smell to it. And I remember always going to my grandma's house from my mom's side, and it just had like a magic to it, like just going in her main family room. You hear like um, you hear the clock always going, the scary paintings in her living room, and everything like that. But she just had like a really nice fireplace. The backyard was this big serene garden with there'd be like a Buddha there, there'd be a terrace, and yeah, it was just like I went back to that garden last year and she still has it. Like the same house that my mom grew up in. My grandma still lives there right now. Like it's crazy. And she's 90. She thinks she's 91 now. So yeah, it's pretty crazy that I can go back and experience it too. So her garden, it's funny as a kid, it looks so much bigger than it is now. Cause I remember as a kid, it was like so big. It was like going to Narnia. It would just be like all these different plans and everything. But now I go back like towering over them. But yeah, a lot of cool memories there. And we'd celebrate Christmas and just brought a lot of warm feelings of like home, kind of like you arrived or something. And yeah, so that whole area, like we would travel to go visit and stuff like that. So just had a great time.
How big was the neighborhood you grew up in? Like, how big was the town or the city or whatever you
So
would call it in
we
Canada?
Yeah. So we moved a lot. So kind of the first place was just regular residential neighborhood, kind of like 3, 4 bedroom kind of houses. And then we were always in the suburbs, to be honest, all like very similar to each other. The Costco was a 3 minute drive away or whatever it was back then. And it was every neighborhood we went to, there was some kids that we became friends with that we would play sports with, jump on a trampoline, play paintball, um, play video games. That was another big one, like doing these LAN parties. Now we're kind of going to my early teenage years, but like as a kid, yeah, it was a lot of that stuff.
So when you were like, zero to, or like, 0 to 5, like, do you remember the house or the neighborhood you lived in? Like, was it like 1,500 people or?
Yeah, I would say something like that. Probably about 1,500 people. The school was probably like a 5, 10 minute walk down the road. Had like a play structure you could go to, monkey bars, um, all that stuff too. So yeah, I'm trying to think of the neighborhood. Like it wasn't like crazy exceptional big. It wasn't like super small in the projects or anything. It was just kind of like your average sort of childhood neighborhood.
And then you mentioned that your family was all your family pretty close? Your extended family?
Yeah, everyone was pretty close. Everybody really got along. My dad was in the hotel business, and he was always known to be a practical jokester. So he played jokes on people. On my mom's side, like her sisters, and pretending to have a Chinese voice. And yeah, he would always do jokes on people. But my dad would sometimes never like jokes being played on him. Of course he would, and he would laugh sometimes. But he was so good at it, good sense of humor. So yeah, we had a lot of fun over the years.
So 0 to 5, now kind of moving into like first grade. Do you remember any of the teachers you had actually in like kindergarten, first grade? those pretty early years?
Yeah, my kindergarten's name teacher was Mrs. Sharon. Grade one was Miss Verlon, and then grade two was Mrs. Husband.
Does anything stick out to you
Interesting.
about them?
Yeah, they were Mrs. Sharon was like a super nice nurse or something. She was just like so sweet, so kind, so easygoing. She was like your perfect kindergarten teacher. Like she really made you feel, safe and stuff. Miss Verlon, going to grade one now, was a bit more strict. And in her class, I remember playing the game Telephone. And I also remember in that, maybe this was kindergarten, we were going around the room and then people were the exercise was, what's your first name? What's your last name? That's it. And they got to me and I said, my first name's Riley, but I don't have a last name. And everybody was looking at me like, what do you mean you don't have a last name? And I think I was nervous or something to say what my last name was. So I just didn't say it. Yeah, strange. And then going to grade two, yeah, her name was Mrs. Husband, and all the kids always made fun of her. And I just remember being very good at the arts and like thinking outside of the box. And I did a lot of daydreaming back then too. So I wasn't always a fan of like, not that you do complicated math equations back then, but like stuff where you really had to use your brain. I was more kind of like the daydreamy type, kind of like imagination and intuition and stuff like that.
So what do you mean by that? Like you draw a lot or like paint
Yeah,
or
draw, paint. Sometimes just think about, um, I don't know. I guess I kind of sometimes just be in my own world of just like, I would get so much stimulus from the environment that like a smell that I've smelled earlier, like a vision I saw of just like, trees or the sun coming through, like I had a deep appreciation for it or something. And I could just kind of long in that sensation of it all and be with it and just like explore versus someone would just be like, yeah, whatever, it's just this or it's just that. I just kind of felt like I could just sit with it. But downside to that of like being in the physical world all the time, I wasn't always 100% present. But yeah, I was definitely kind of more into kind of like the drawing and more into um, like really just thinking about things. I don't even know what things I'd be thinking about, but just kind of like not being here in this present moment.
so you'd basically like kind of think about things really deeply when you
Yeah,
were young.
exactly. Yeah,
Hmm.
really deeply being on. And I wasn't like to try and like escape something. Like I got to disconnect right now. It was just like appreciation or just like really just thinking about something for it to make sense to me or something. So yeah, I really remember that from an early age.
Do you remember any like the pieces of art that you did?
Yeah, it was a lot of stick man, a lot of sun, a lot of mountains. Yeah, all kinds of different colors. My favorite color was always blue. So I would do a lot of shades of blue, oceans, bodies of water. Water was always pretty big to me. I remember drawing, whether it's, yeah, like waterfalls or the ocean or a lake or something like that, or like some fantasy place that's like a serene outdoor spot that looks like Narnia. Like, I don't know, just stuff that looks like that. I always found I was using forms of blue in contrast with like sunlight, and like that always fascinated me for some reason.
So was Narnia, you've mentioned Narnia a few times. Was that a movie that you watched pretty young?
Yeah, I watched that from a really young age. And I think as a kid, it was like, now we know Narnia now for what it is, but back then I think it was like a show or a cartoon or something, or it was a book. I don't know where it came from. And it's also just an easy way to, I could say Lord of the Rings, but Narnia is also just like a utopia, place in nature.
Do you remember watching it at all? Like the TV you used to watch it on, or like when you used to watch it, like after
I
school,
do,
before school?
yeah. I remember the big tube TV we would turn on, and it would take like 3 minutes for that TV to even show the screen. And you wouldn't know if it was turning on because sometimes the sunlight would come through and the TV was on, but the little speck of the light was on. So you had to like close the blinds to see if like that little light was actually turning on. I just remember that actually. Um, yeah, but I remember like, yeah, the tube TV. and it turning on. And then when it finally turned on, it was like an event. It was like, oh my God, it's starting. Then the volume starts. But sometimes the volume would start before the TV show would come on. So you'd be like, and especially if you're running late for that episode, because you can't record shows back then or anything else. It would be at that time, right? So if you missed the episode, like, I don't know, buy the DVD set in 6 months. So you really like had to pay attention. You would just treasure it so much when it was being released, and I'd have my cookies and Oreos.
You almost had to be like 5 minutes early for your favorite show.
Yeah, you would have to be. But you would just be like so excited for it. Like it was just true relaxation and just like, just to chill out for the episode. And you could literally just sit there all day and watch some of these shows. I also remember the shows like Powerpuff Girls, like with Mojo Jojo, Dexter's Laboratory. Um, what other ones? There was the Rugrats, there was Caillou, there was Arthur. Yeah, so I remember like this channel 25 was YTV. Then you had Teletoons. And those were like the main core channels. And then they all had their own vibe. And I remember another Bill Nye the Science Guy was another one back then. Popular Mechanics for Kids. Um, and you remember school too, where you would like the teacher would roll in the big tube TV on
Oh
the
yeah,
four wheels and the thing, and you would watch like Bill Nye and then have to plug it in. Yeah, man, that's going down memory lane.
those are like the best days.
Yeah,
Video games. Do you remember what video games you used to play? I know you mentioned LAN parties too. So you had like a bunch of people over and you guys would all jam out.
yeah, we would. That would be more like early teenage years. Back then, we're in the '90s. So let me think. In the '90s, I wonder if it was like Pokemon, Game Boy.
Nintendo 64 maybe?
Oh yeah, Nintendo 64. I remember PlayStation 1 came out actually.
Yeah.
And there was the game Twisted Metal, where all those cars like Sweet Tooth and stuff would shoot missiles at each other and like explode. And I had this neighbor, his name was Scott. And Scott, I would always go to his house, and this game was rated, I think it was like 14 plus years old you had to be. And I was like not even close to that age yet. And my parents didn't want me playing those kind of games. So I would sneak over to his house. We would go in his basement and we would play it. And yeah, we had such a good time. And I just remember playing a couple games, and like that PlayStation 1 sound when it first turns on,
Oh
it
yeah.
was just like so mythical, and it just felt powerful at the time. And when it comes on, you have the controller in your hand and you're just playing these games, like what an experience that was. And yeah, there's another game too called Too Extreme, where you would race and you'd be on rollerblades or a bike and you would knock people off with like your elbow. And yeah, just a lot of fun. I also remember too, you would get these CDs or DVDs that would actually be in magazines, and they would be demos for a game. And on the CD, you would get like, I don't know, 15 game demos. And if you want to get the next one, you would have to unlock the next subscription, which would come every month in the mail. So that would be an event too. So that was also just like a ton of fun when things weren't so widely available and you actually had to sit there and appreciate and enjoy it and play the hell out of it.
Did you guys have Blockbuster?
We did, yeah. Blockbuster too.
Did you did you ever go there with your parents or your
Oh
siblings?
yeah, all the time. Yeah, yeah, it'd be great because you'd always go to the corner store and get like 7-Eleven, go get some things, chips, some pop, and then you go rent a movie and you didn't know which one you were going to rent. And that would be an event too. And you would just see like what ones were out of stock and the ones that would be in stock. And if you got the last one, you would get a rush, and then you would go to the front, and then you would hope you wouldn't have any late fees or anything on the checkout, because that would really suck. And yeah, but if you got the movie you wanted or the new release, there'd be like a new release section, then the older section. But I always remember that new release section being like really, um, I don't know, like it was on the spotlight or something. And to just see that there, it was like you have to go get that movie or else it was going to sell out. And I always remember that section being sold out too. And they'd be the worst because if you were like excited, you knew this movie was coming out, you went to go get all your chips and popcorn, and then you went to go get like Coke or whatever. Last stop, Blockbuster. But they don't have the movie, so you got to get your second one you want. So yeah, it was a good time for what it was.
It's definitely an adventure. Small things like that when you're a kid.
Yeah, totally is.
So, kind of backing up a little bit further and then we'll kind of zoom forward. Do you remember, did your parents tell you like what you were like when you were a baby? Like when you were like 0 or like a newborn?
Yeah, they told me that I was a happy baby, especially compared to all my brothers. Like, never caused any problems, never cried, was always happy. They said quiet too, but like happy, and didn't really give much issues. They always said like in my eyes, like I had childlike wonder at all times, and just always excited by everything. And my eyes would always light up. And my eyes now are blue, but back then they were really blue, and that was, I guess, the time my most distinct feature. And they, yeah, that was always something that just stood out to them.
Um,
And that from there, that turned into the Richie Rich thing I explained earlier.
yeah. So that was really, Richie Rich was really young, right?
Yeah, we're talking like probably like 3 to 6 years old.
Okay. And then, do you remember like any challenges that you went through when you were like 0 to 5 years old?
Trying to think of like siblings. I think I would get into arguments with my parents sometimes, but I really don't remember too much. Um, I feel like my parents were really good, like trying to laugh around me and stuff like this. But I think with my siblings, I would sometimes get into fights. I think I do remember that my brother that came before me, I feel like he was stealing all the attention because he was the newborn baby. And yeah, I didn't get so much attention. So where I was just the first child and the only child, and then for him to be born to get the attention, that created a little bit of jealousy.
What made you feel a little bit jealous? Like, oh, I was getting all this attention before. Now there's a new boy, and you probably loved him, but you're like, oh man, like it's not the same as it used to be with mom and dad.
Exactly. And you would think it would be that way forever.
Yeah, very true. Like when you're young like that, you think things are just gonna stay the same.
Totally. Yeah.
So going on to like first and second and third grade, you kind of mentioned like your teachers and a little bit about that time. Was there a lot of adjustments kind of being made? I mean, at that time you got your younger brother, maybe two younger brothers, and how does that shift kind of going into first, second, and third grade look like for you?
I think you go from you're so used to just like your own little family, and that's like your concept of reality, of how I felt. And then, whoa, now you're exposed to these other people. They're kind of strangers. It's not, my same blood brothers that I knew, and knowing their personalities and knowing them the inside out, and they know how to bother you and everything. And so I think when I went to in those first years, it was a bit of a wake up call, like, oh, there's other people out here besides just my immediate family. And at first it felt foreign, and I think it took a little bit of an adjustment.
What did that look like for you? Like in terms of like, okay, I'm interpreting the world a little bit differently now. Like, did that impact your behavior quite a bit?
I think so. I think it made me realize that the world is like the world can be I don't want to say evil or like bad in any way, but it can be like there is a negative part here. Like there is light and there is dark. And I think like intuitively I started to see the concept of that. Not that the people that I was first meeting were dark, but it was almost like someone that's outside of like this fairy tale with just like your family and everything's so pure and fun. And besides how they annoy the hell out of me at that age, but just being just seeing the possibility of that, of people that seem so different and foreign to what you were first exposed to, like in those first early years. It was a bit of a I think it was a bit of an opener for me.
Did you have like a sense of spirituality growing up?
Always kind of did, yeah. And I didn't know if that was like intuition, um but it was kind of one of like being able to see things deeper where people don't see it, not in like an egotistical way like I'm better than them, but more just like uh a perception of just like seeing the depth of things. But with that came like I was very sensitive to things. So, sensitive to things around me, to sound, not really sound so much, but like emotionally, I think I was really sensitive too. I don't know if I was like a hypersensitive person, HSP, I think they call them, but I picked up on the outside world and that created a lot of stimulus for me. And so sometimes that made me shy around that age, I remember.
So kind of shy, and then do you remember like any of the subjects in school, like doing math or like gym class or like what you'd eat for lunch at school, like things like that?
Yeah, gym came kind of really easily to me. It was athletic. I think I was pretty tall at the time growing up. I think I had an early growth spurt when I was yeah, I'm trying to remember lunchtime. Oh yeah, you would eat at your desk. And I remember eating my desk and trading like, hey, I'll trade you a fruit roll up for like a Starburst or something, and like trading things with your friends and like your from your lunchbox. And my mom would make my lunchbox every morning, and you'd wonder like, oh, what's she gonna put in today? And she'd always put in a note she would write. So you'd open up the lunchbox and she would put a note in like, I hope you have a good day, sweetie, or something like that. So, it was kind of sweet at the time. But yeah, math class. Yeah, math. I'm trying to think. I think math in the early stages before grade 4, like I really enjoyed it. And around this age, I feel like with numbers I could pick up on it quite easily. And I feel like, yeah, you're making me think about things I haven't even really thought about. But I think I had like an intuition of this perception that like other people couldn't see or something because I could just feel like I could see the depth of things, but it was almost interfering with um trying to do things in the physical world, but I could still excel at them if I really tried at it. But it always felt like a bit of an uphill battle because of the extra stimulus I was always getting because I could see like many layers to something. And so that was, I think, a lot for my brain to handle from that extra stimulus. It made things, um, kind of, I want to keep it to myself because it doesn't seem like other people can see what I can see. So maybe I shouldn't say anything.
And then you mentioned the notes that your mom used to leave in your lunchbox. Were you the type of kid that, you get that note and then you'd kind of like hide it from your friends and like, try to be like, oh,
Totally. Yeah.
you know what I mean?
I would think it was nice. Yeah. I would think it was nice. But yeah, I'm trying to think like what grade was it even? I'm trying to think like what my parents think like, or my friends think how lame this was. So I think I was trying to hide it from my friends. And yeah, just some of that stuff I remember for sure.
Yeah. Like, mom, I got an identity to hold up here.
Yeah, exactly. Don't kill my swag, mom.
Exactly. Um, and then like for breakfast, did you guys eat breakfast at school or did you eat breakfast at home?
We'd eat breakfast at home. And I remember my dad getting ready for work. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. And my dad was always getting ready for work. And I always remember smelling his cologne and aftershave and like putting on a suit. So I always associated that smell with getting ready for work in the morning. But I loved it. And I remember going to like, my dad would be in the bathroom and I would go into the bathroom and talk to him. He's getting ready for work. And he's carrying his briefcase and off he went. And yeah, I see my dad as my biggest hero.
Nice. So, yeah, that's really moving, man. I mean, even for like an early memory like that, just kind of remembering the smell of your dad's cologne and like going into the bathroom and getting ready with him for the day. That's probably
Yeah.
a really warming environment.
Yeah, totally. And you kind of associated like he puts on a business suit with a tie and looking all crisp with his suitcase. And sometimes he'd be stressed. But, from an early age, that was kind of a taste into the business world or like those first images of like wanting to pursue that later on or something. Yeah, it's definitely a treasure to have that
So did you looked up to your dad when you were pretty young?
for sure. Yeah, absolutely.
That's cool. Um, And then, like, do you remember any like recesses, like things that happened on recess in those first, second, third grade years?
Yeah, we did a lot of oh man. So grade 2, there was this thing called Crazy Bones. And Crazy Bones were like um these plastic figurines, and there was a bunch of them, and you would trade them. And there was one, it was called Aggie, and Aggie was the most valuable one. And you would go to the store and buy these packs. It was almost like a chocolate bar of like wrapping, but there'd be a bunch of these figurines inside and be totally random. It would be like the old Pokemon card packs. You'd never know which one you were going to get. And you would try and feel it out. And so, anyway, we did a lot of that. I remember we played a lot of foot hockey. So it'd be like a tennis ball, and you would set up like goalies. Like somebody would bring their sweaters, you like make that a goalie, and if you hit the ball in there, you could only use your feet and kick it. And if it went through there, then you would get a point. So I remember doing a lot of that for recess. Never really got in trouble as a kid. Yeah, I remember being social, but I remember being nervous too. I'd be so nervous that if the teacher was about to call on me and ask, like, put me on the spot, because I would just go into a freeze mode. So that was something that always stood out to me.
Were you like a pretty attentive student? Like, did you pay attention well in class? And what kind of student were you?
Yeah, I wasn't like the class clown. Um, I didn't pay too much attention, to be honest. I was one of those kids that was drawing a lot of the time, or doodling, or like just thinking about something else, anything but class. I really didn't find school fun after the age, I think after grade 2 or like halfway through grade 3. I had this teacher that would, her name was Mrs. Rogan. She would yell at everybody, like top of her lungs. Like she would probably hit the kids if she could. And she just made school really unfun. She reminded me of like an old nun or something, and just didn't like it at all. And she kind of messed with my mind a bit with school, because I really enjoyed it. I love the intuition of it and just seeing what else is out there. But then it felt like where school was something I was forced to do. And I remember writing our name in like cursive writing. So going from, printing letters to now doing cursive writing with your name, and the smart students could do the cursive writing. And I kind of like that, but I just always kind of wanted to do my own way of doing things, and sort of the structured curriculum. I didn't really like it, and I just felt resistance to it. And but I kind of did it anyway, so it put a bad taste in my mouth.
You think that impacted like your future years in school? Just to kind of zoom forward a little bit, but we'll go back. Like, did that teacher kind of leave, like you said, it left like a sour taste in your mouth? Do you think that kind of impacted your future years in school too?
Yeah, I think so. I remember certain subjects in grade 3, like I didn't like too much. Like math, I really liked, and certain things I'd really work on, and you do really good at it. But I think saw a school of something like, what's the point of it? Like, where's it taking me? Why am I doing this math equation? This feels like a crazy environment where everybody's just being told what to do. Like, I felt like I had some inner sense of this, not even knowing what it was. And I think later on, it kind of disconnected me from school of like, yeah, I like this, but I want to learn something that I want to learn. Like, why can't I get grades for that? Why does it have to be about these really dry things? And I think, was it that teacher? Yeah, probably where it started. But grade 4 was even worse teachers too. And it kind of just went downhill from there, to be honest, with the ones I got selected with.
Did you only have like one teacher per grade, or did you have like a bunch of different teachers for different subjects?
Grade 1 to 6 was just one teacher.
So it was like one homeroom teacher and he or she taught all the subjects.
Yeah, exactly.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Interesting. Was that pretty normal in Canada?
Yeah, for the most part, like from grade 1 to 6, like elementary school basically. Yeah, it was usually always that. Sometimes there would be split grades, like grade 3 and 4 together, something like that, or 5 and 6. But usually it would be the same teacher, and classroom would be 20 to 30 people on average. And I remember like grade 3 also, we had these portables, and you wouldn't be in like the main building, you would be in the portable, and you'd have like the coat room where you like, Canada be like so snowy, and you would come in with your boots, and you would take your boots off, and it would be all slushy, take off your winter coats, hang it on your hook with your name on it. There'd be like all these colorful stickers around. and then you would have to go and then that was wintertime. Summertime or towards it just got so hot, and you would just be like the fans would be on. Yeah, it wouldn't be a really fun learning experience through all that. So I think I found it uninspirational, and it was hard for my knowledge gates to open and to let in the knowledge.
What was your favorite season as a kid? Was it summer or?
I honestly liked spring. It always felt like new beginnings because the winters in Canada would always be so damn cold. And so when spring would come along, it would be like, you're feeling a sense of that, the flowers are coming out. You hear the birds when you start waking up. There's a smell in the air. Um, it'd be warmer. You'd be taking off your snow pants, your boots, and your coat. I could put the rollerblades back on again. Well, this is kind of going a little bit later, but like, just getting outside and just enjoying nature and everything like that.
All right, we're back live. So we were talking about seasons. You said your favorite season was spring. I was curious, like how the winters went for you as a kid.
Canada winters were pretty harsh, really cold. Celsius, minus 30, minus 40 Fahrenheit. Not sure what that is, but yeah, it was like a lot of boots, a lot of slush, a lot of cold days, and just dark, getting dark at like 4 p.m. in the middle of winter. Especially on days where it'd be cloudy, and it was more prone to just not being so excited about things. I mean, we had like lots of snow, so we make like snow forts. It actually got pretty dangerous because we'd have this big snowbanks because every morning these snow plows would come. It's basically a big truck with a shovel on it, and they would clear the streets, and the snow would go like onto people's yards and stuff, of course, and they'd make these big mountains of snow. And then we would take those mountains of snow and we would dig holes inside of it as kids, or we would play like King of the Castle or something. But our parents never let us dig the holes because it was dangerous. And actually, there's been cases where like people died because they collapsed and they suffocated and died. And which rightly so, but they kind of stole all the fun. But yeah, just a lot of memories. So I was living in Vancouver, moved to Calgary. This is all before the age of 7. Moved to Calgary, back to Vancouver, to London, Ontario, and then to Ottawa when I was in grade 2 or 3. And so there's a lot of moving up until that stage. And the wintertime was, we experienced all the cold, but especially when you went out east to London or Ottawa, it was pretty miserable. So, yeah, I experienced all of it at once.
You think that kind of made you a little tougher as a kid?
I think so. You definitely made you work harder. You're kind of like, you wouldn't be miserable, let's say, like you had the snow and everything to look forward to, but it made video games a lot easier to play, because why would I go outside and that's when I first got like I played video games before, but when I first got my first sense of like, I remember moving to Ottawa and being friends with one of my neighbors, and he introduced me to Pokemon, and we started watching like Pokemon shows, and yeah, it just led to new opportunities, and just playing some kind of game or like something would be on, and then the wintertime would come. It'd be like, the fire would be on. You'd watch a TV show or like watch a movie, or you just go play a video game, and the video game at the time would just be so much fun, especially with my brain. I could just explore everything I wanted. I just choose what game I wanted to play.
So you were moving a lot first, second, and third grade. Like, did that? And you said that you were shy. Do you think that that's kind of why? Because you're kind of uprooted pretty consistently?
Yeah, I think so. I had some core friends. Like my friends were always um, like you'd be true bros, but anyone who was like an acquaintance level, I didn't really pay too much attention to. And quite frankly, maybe I was kind of mean to people too that I didn't feel like I was close with. Maybe that was just the way that I interpreted the outside world. Um, the people that I got along with, I doubled down, I tripled down on them, and they kind of became my best friends.
Was there any other challenges that you struggled with during these years besides maybe just the uprootedness and then the shyness?
I think other challenges. I wasn't like super socially isolated because I always remember being social. Uh,
Did you have any health issues as a
Back
kid?
then, no, there's no health issues back then either. Actually, this is probably one thing, but I remember like back then, uh, feeling older than my years and like people like because I was being so cerebral sometimes and kind of going to the intuition of things and feeling like I was seeing things on a deeper level. I think that I was more mature for my age and I was hanging out a lot with adults instead of just like being a kid and just playing and just like who cares what happens. No, kind of like I didn't have as much the mentality of like the what's that movie where all the kids are on bikes and they kind of are like screw the world, like it's a really anarchy, type of mentality. But it's one of the old classics. I forget the name right now. The
The
movie.
Sandlot, the baseball movie, or no?
No, it was oh god, it was a book and it was a movie. But anyway, it was kind of like rebellion to the world or like, you know, I kind of just was chill, kind of fit in. I could see things more intuitively and didn't really push back too much. I think as a kid and a baby, like I was just sort of chill. So I didn't really see a reason to like go out of my way. But, when boys are boys at that age, they kind of get into trouble and they do certain things. And I never really did that too much. But didn't really socially isolate me. I just noticed that sometimes, like I would do it for the sake of doing it, but I wasn't like, this is my comfort zone right now.
Yeah. So if you could like go back in time, your age, like who you are now, and like have a conversation with your third grade self, like what do you think you would tell him?
I would say to probably just have more fun. Just like let go, have more fun. Don't think about things so much. Just go be a kid.
Like kind of just, would you tell him to like kind of hang out with kids his age as well and kind of just be a little bit more free in that sense?
Yeah, exactly. I would just say that like don't make everything so like cerebral or like thinking about it. Just kind of like just go in the moment how it feels. Like it doesn't matter if something doesn't make sense. Just like jump in, get dirty, like go roll in the mud, go, go get physical, to go do what you have to do to like make the miss and, make just have like wild fun with no point. Like what's the point to any of it type of thing. I think I was kind of like, what's the point of this because of this thing and the other thing? It's not part of my, you know, deep layers or something like whatever the hell that's called.
Do you remember having any like dreams or aspirations at that time of like things you wanted to do or accomplish or what you wanted to be when you grow
I
up?
had a lot of, yeah, I had a lot of like fantasy. I don't know what it was, but like I had a lot of fantasy for like outside worlds of like futuristic, um, eco, um, like, think of like Singapore with like a super high tech city, but with like a jungle in it or something, or like super zen like things. I always had some like gravitation towards this type of thing, and I have no idea why. And I don't know if I started a video game because then what started happening shortly after this is all my wallpapers turned into this like on my computer, um, on like my desktop background, and like started playing video games that were associated with this. And now Superhuman's kind of that too. Like a lot of like my chorus in the backgrounds, part of them are that too. So it's kind of funny how all this stemmed into what it is now, but I have no idea how it turned into that. I don't know if it was part of like Vancouver. I don't know if I was trying to escape to these outside worlds because it felt like school or something was stressful. Um, but I didn't feel like I really socially isolated myself. It was definitely a very social childhood. I think I just noticed these differences between myself and other people.
That'd be pretty sweet to go back and look at those old wallpapers you used to have.
Yeah, I know. It was called trying to remember the name, but it was 2005, so how old would I be? 14. Yeah, so we're not there yet in terms of timeline, but I got into the game World of Warcraft. That went down a pretty big rabbit hole, that's for sure. That's kind of when the social isolation began.
And then was it kind of all the same in terms of like what you guys would eat? Were you on a pretty like standard diet pretty much throughout your childhood, or
Yeah,
did it kind of change?
kind of standard. We ate bread, gluten, dairy. I don't remember there being any strict like, you know, diets. And as I got older, like I was having more brothers, right? And so my parents were busy and my mom was a stay-at-home mom, but my dad was working and he was stressed out and like, they just had to put food on the table. So I don't remember anything like strict. They didn't get like super expensive foods or like we ate. It's not like we ever missed a meal or anything, but yeah, we kind of I would say it was probably just above, upper middle class, somewhere in that area.
And then did you guys go out to eat at all? You remember any like your favorite restaurants?
Yeah, I remember going to a place called Chuck E. Cheese where they'd have like the jungle gym and like man, that'd be so fun. Like those plastic balls you would go into and like the maze and all those like hanging noodles you would try and go through, or like the big blow up. Like I remember my dad would always have these Christmas parties at his Westin because he'd be like general manager of the Westin Hotel, and they'd open up for Christmas. Like all the staff members and their family would come to the conference room of the hotel, and they would have these big blow up things you could like jump inside, and all the kids would go in there. And I just remember loving jumping on those things. Like it was so much fun to me.
Any other restaurants?
Chuck E. Cheese, Sad Mario's. It's kind of like a Mediterranean place. Remember, definitely like McDonald's, Dairy Queen. Those were the big ones that stood out. I think also a lot of McDonald's had the play structures too. I remember, so we would always go to those ones because they'd be so much fun. And I remember how like the old McDonald's looked like with the red and um the really uncomfortable stools that you would sit on. Like it's nowhere near what McDonald's is now. And back then, it just had such an iconic thing, and every McDonald's would have a Ronald McDonald icon just standing there, and there'd be some form of a vending machine to get something. So yeah, those are the big ones.
You remember getting like those little toys with like the Happy Meal?
Yeah, we had the toys of the Happy Meal. There's also something in Vancouver too, well, British Columbia. There's this restaurant specific to the province at the time, and it was called White Spot. And White Spot, there'd be a kids meal, and they bring the kids meal on a paper pirate ship, and it'd be so cool, like literally this design pirate ship cut out in like cardboard, and they would put a gold coin in this little slit of the pirate ship, which would basically be your dessert. And it would be like burgers and French fries, and they had this thing called triple O sauce. It was just delicious. And I remember eating that, and then you would have this chocolate loony, and it would just taste so good. And yeah, that was definitely always a treat.
Who'd you used to go there with? Like your parents or grandparents or
Yeah, I think it would be my parents and like my aunts or uncles, and then my grandpa too. When I was growing up, I my mom's side, my mom's dad, my grandpa passed away before I was born, so I never met him. But apparently, he was a doctor and he was a breakpack trail jokester, and everybody knew who he was. And on my dad's side, he developed Parkinson's pretty early on in age. Um, so I knew who he was. He was a big golfer. Like golfing was always big in my family too. But yeah, bringing it back to the food, you know, going there was always big for me. But I always love like these play structure things, like just going to play at certain areas. It was a lot of fun.
did you spend a lot of time with your aunts and uncles?
Quite a bit of time actually. We did everything from I remember they would bring me out to like there's this place in Vancouver. It was called Granville Island, and in Vancouver, the number one animal is basically sleep, or somebody just sent me is seagulls, and seagulls are by the ocean, and there was seagulls and there was pigeons, and this area called Granville Island, it would be like a play structure that was like 5 levels high, and it still exists today. And I'll go back there, and it brings me back to childhood. and it was like an arcade machine, and it would print all the tickets, and so much fun, like just such a great time. And there was my family would always bring me there, and you would sit by the wharf, you'd smell the ocean, and there'd be the pigeons you would like feed seeds to, and there'd be the seagulls there too. And I just remember it always being like overcast, because in Vancouver it's a lot of rain there, or overcast, at least if it's not the summertime. um, so yeah, just a lot of weird memories. No purpose, just what I recall.
How many aunts and uncles did you have? Quite a few.
Yeah, we were a pretty big family. My dad's side, there was six uncles, five, six uncles, and two aunts. And then on my mom's side, two uncles, four aunts.
And then would you guys all get together for like holidays and things like that?
We would, yeah. Now this shifted things a little bit because all my family was based in Vancouver and Victoria on the West Coast. But when we moved to East, to London, Ontario, and to Ottawa, that's about a 6 hour flight. We were separated from all of them. So we had to, we didn't see them as often unless we went like once a summer, we would go back to the West Coast. And it would always be this longing thing of like, I don't know if my parents really wanted to go to like, you're basically moving to a city where there's no bodies of water except lakes. And when you move, you grow up in the ocean and then you go to a place where you're not by the ocean. We always spent our vacation going out west and flying out there. It became this event like where the limo would pick us up on a July morning at 6 a.m. and we'd be so excited. My mom would buy us these Game Boys and a Game Boy game that we get to choose. And there'd be like Sonic the Hedgehog would always be my game. And we got to play it on the airplane. And it was great for my parents because it would make us be quiet while we were playing games so we wouldn't be crying on the 6 hour flight. And then we would get there and it was an event to go to my grandma's house. And then we'd go to Vancouver, explore the city, go for a bike ride, go to this Granville Island area, and yeah, just see basically everything. So lots of and then we would see our family too. So it kind of became a thing of escaping wherever we were and going to Vancouver. And that's partly why I'm fast forwarding of like once I finished school, first place I went Vancouver and I lived there for some time.
Then do you remember like did you used to do anything with like your brothers or your brothers? Like did you have any hobbies that you guys used to do? Or like games you used to play?
Yeah, we played board games, outside games, and then video games. And the outside games would be like we played road hockey, like wearing rollerblades. We play like tag or manhunt or kick the can. And I remember these like really late summer nights of playing these games. It was so much fun. And you go like to the pool after, like my parents, friends would have kids and we would go to like to their house for like a barbecue and we'd sit at the pool and everyone was just having such a great time. And after that we went to I'm trying to think. Video games, we started playing like PlayStation 1, Tony Hawk Pro Skater, that was another big one. I remember that was like 1997 or 1998. And yeah, I also remember watching there was this movie actually, it was called Ghost Ship. And that was like the first horror movie that I've ever seen. And that haunted me, that movie. I remember a sleepover. So one funny story is my dad was general manager of the Westin Hotel at the time, and all of he got access to basically any room that he wanted. So he would invite his friends, or sorry, I would invite my friends, probably grade 2 or grade 3, to the hotel, and we would sleep over in this suite. And then the next morning we'd go down and we'd go to the restaurant and they'd be like blown away, like, oh my God, like what kind of life are you living? Like we're in this like presidential suite. We get like room service comes up and everything. But we started getting pretty rowdy and like my brothers were younger at the time too. So one of my friends, he was known to be really gassy. So he went to the bathroom and he gassed out the bathroom entirely, totally stunk it up. And we were playing tag, and the person to get tagged had to go in the bathroom and sit there as punishment right after my friend stunk it up. So my youngest brother, Liam, he got tagged and he was just like 2 or 3 years old. So he went into the bathroom and we like locked him in there. It was so mean. And he came out crying. So that was one story. But yeah, I remember doing like sleepovers and stuff like that. It was yeah, it was a fun time. And like they bring presents, and I remember going to like the restaurant after, and my parents would say like some of the kids in my group would be, like not in their best behavior. They'd be the wild ones. Like my parents had to act like civilized, make us civilized. So they would raise their voice at some of my friends sometimes, like, whoa, I've never seen that side of them before, unless they're angry at me. But yeah, that was those were some good memories. But I forget your question going back to it.
Well, I mean, it just sounds like you guys were going on like a lot of adventures. I was
Yeah.
asking about your siblings.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, you guys went on a lot of adventures. So like the hotels and
Yeah, the hotels, and we met a lot of my dad's friends. We met when we were young. We met a lot of pretty important people in the city who'd be like an ambassador of a country or such and such name. And my parents would always be like, "Be on your best behavior," and we'd have to like iron our clothes, make sure we were dressed well. My mom would take care of those pieces. My dad would introduce us, and we had to be on our best behavior, or else there could be trouble. So if my brothers and I were laughing or something, my parents would always be like, "Shh, be quiet." And we became friends with like other parents' friends, and some of them are still friends to this day. Um, but yeah, we just a lot of parents who are like in the business world that might they could be lawyers or business owners or like whatever. And yeah, we just became friends with their kids, and it kind of just spread from there. And they'd have barbecues and we would go to their house or vice versa. And that would kind of be when we were in Ottawa, because that was like a lot of my childhood. But then during the summertime, we would go out west, and then we would do our thing there. And there's a place out west called Parksville, and my mom's parents went there, um, and their parents went there. My mom's kid went there, and then we started going there. And it's kind of the strip along a beach on this. So there's Victoria. So you're in Vancouver, you got to take a ferry across Vancouver Island. It's about 90 minutes. Once you're in Victoria, it's beautiful as it is. You can go up the coast, you drive up the coast north, and you hit all these places like Nanaimo and Qualicum. And there's this area called Parksville. And Parksville had this beach, it had like a boardwalk, but it was so cool because they had this skate park that was there. They had these car shows that would be there. They'd have these sandcastle competitions on the beach. So the tide would go all the way out. Like it would take you 45 minutes to just walk to the water again because it would be so far out. And so while the tide was out before it came back in, people would do these sandcastle competitions. It became like this big thing. There'd be like dozens and dozens of these people creating these really cool sculptures. And some people would make like a fort too. So my uncle would wake up super early, and he was a mechanic, and his name was Carrie, and he would create this like moat around with a shovel. And he really had that farmer's mentality, like first to work, last to leave. And he would be working for 3 hours, and he liked his booze. But then we would go out and we'd go help him. And then the tide would slowly come in, and everybody's sandcastle was getting destroyed, but except ours, because we built a moat around it. And then the whole entire water was surrounding us. It was basically like a moat around our sandcastle. But then the sand walls started collapsing in because the water line was getting higher, and we were trying to save it with the shovels too. So it was always just like, who's the last one standing? And then everyone would like, we bring the rafts on. So then when finally the castle collapsed, we would get into the raft and go back to shore. And it kind of became like this yearly thing. So we would go out each summertime, head to Parksville. It was a cool, chill area. And yeah, it was just tons of fun. There was like a grassy knoll area. I remember there was this log, and it was like a sandbank, and there was this log you had to walk across, and it was sewage water right below it. And so if you fell, you'd be going right into the sewage water. And so my brothers and I would always walk across the log to the other side of the sandbank. And my brother one time fell right down on his crotch, right on the log, and he fell into the sewage water. My dad was there, and brothers were laughing so hard, like hysterically, like we were crying. And my dad was so pissed off at us that we were laughing at him, and he was like legitimately hurt. Um, but yeah, we still haven't let that one go. So that was a lot of fun too. But just this area of like by the ocean, and you go for these morning walks, the ocean breeze would be there. And I remember there would be like these mountains in the background. You'd see like these white cap tips. It looked like something from, I'll use another example, like Avatar, just like beautiful. And you see like these greenery. That's one thing with British Columbia is it's not like Santa Monica where it's just like sand. You look out into the ocean. No, you see like mountains, white caps. You see forests, like big trees. You see different islands. You see ships in the background, and it just looked like this foreign land that was in the distance. Every time you look out from this area, so yeah, it was really cool. And just the fact that my parents had gone there, my grandparents and their parents, it was a really generational thing. So it was something that was pretty special to us.
That's really cool. Sounds like a pretty meaningful place. And then like you also had the contrast of like the daunting winters in Canada. And then as a kid you would go and visit all these beautiful places. And I'm guessing that was probably one of the reasons maybe that stuck out to you so much was because of, really long winters and then going and seeing beautiful places. It's like,
Yeah,
oh, wow.
yeah, totally. Because it would just be a totally different place from, cold winter out east. And then you go all the way out west in the summertime. It's one of the most beautiful places on earth. Like Vancouver in the summertime, I think Vancouver's rated one of the top places in the world to live, like as a livable city. And there's a reason why it's one of the most expensive too, but it's just the amount of beauty that it just has, and this just everything. It's something definitely worth exploring.
And then do any of like the sand castles stick out to you that you remember from those
Yeah,
competitions?
I remember like, there'd be guys who would make like girls in bikinis, and my parents would say, "Don't look at those ones," or like, the traditional ones would be like shells, or um, I don't know, just like random stuff that has nothing to do with the beach, or just like a diamond, or a car, or just different types of objects. Sometimes some might be an animal or like an insect, like a scorpion. You just have all kinds. And there was also this area, like the okay sandcastles were on the public beaches, but the good sandcastles, like the professional ones, they'd be in this gated area, and you'd have to back up on shore. And I think you would pay an admission fee, and you would try and get inside, and you would actually see them, and they look so beautiful. But we didn't want to pay the admission fee, so there's always these little slits in the fence that you could look through and actually see what they were. So we got our fix because we could see them, so we never had to pay the admission.
Then you also mentioned going to like these really important business meetings, like with like world ambassadors and like things like that. Do you remember any of those meetings that you went to?
Yeah, it wouldn't be like an actual meeting, but more so like meeting at a restaurant, like at my dad's restaurant at the time. And then he would have, yeah, like I remember just like them sitting down. We had to stand up, and our shirts would be tucked in. We'd say hello, and my dad would say, "This is their name." And he would test us. What's their name again? What's the kid's name? So he would make sure like everything, because he was trying to put a good image on like who we were and what we did. And image was probably kind of big to him. But like looking back, I appreciate it. Like it's better than just not having that. But the people we met and just being exposed to that, I think it really helped with mindset as I got older, of like, being around money or being around these types of people. I didn't really have anything against them. That a lot of these stereotypes, I think they can sometimes develop. So I felt really fortunate for that.
Did did you notice like other kids your age having those stereotypes of like, looking at rich people differently than other people?
Yeah, probably not until the grade like 6 or 7, because then I really started to notice people who didn't have money. I'm not saying I did or I was better than them as a family, but like just differences in like how they would dress, the shoes they'd wear, um, or just seeing their parents, or like starting to, somebody would say, "Oh, don't go to this part; it's a shady area of the town. Stick to this part only." Or like, "Be careful of strangers; they might be, this kind of person. You got to be safe out there in the world." I felt as I got older, I had to decondition myself from some of those things. But just being around like I just started noticing the differences in different kinds of people. Yeah, I think that led to I definitely see them sometimes say things about that too, like, oh, rich people are just greedy. The way they got it is on stomping on all the poor people. And I always just thought, like, I never saw that. Like, what makes you, what gives you that belief? You know, the people that I saw, they sometimes the most helpful people. So I didn't really understand at the time, but I just kind of went along with it anyway.
You think it was kind of common in like propaganda to like paint rich people in that type of a picture, like especially with like politics and things like that?
Yeah, I think so. I think I saw like people freaking out about something that just like, what's the issue? And I don't know, people would just sometimes seem like cartoon characters of being so angry at somebody, like a politician or somebody who's rich, even though they don't even know the person. And it just didn't make sense to me because I felt like I met these people. I don't know how many politicians I met growing up, but like, yeah, it just felt like it was unwarranted and it was more of that person's issue than a rich person's issues. That was kind of a belief I always, um, like they kind of had to deal with their own stuff because it's more of an issue of them versus like a rich person stepping on them or somebody trying to blame the politician for their own problems in their own life. Like some of these patterns I just felt like I recognized earlier on.
So were you like observing kind of like some of these stark differences between like mindsets at an early age, or is it kind of like a, like a psychological analysis that you're doing now?
I didn't observe it like sorry, I didn't analyze it back then, but I just observed it because I didn't know like the whole the whole picture and all the boundaries and everything. Just looking back, I realize that now, but like at the time I just observed it and it was just kind of like, interesting. But it wasn't like I have anything against those people. It was, I think it was just more observing in my unconscious mind, just taking in the experience.
Yeah. And then in terms of like Parksville and, going to all these like sandcastle competitions, like what age was that about?
Probably like upwards of the age of 8 to 16 years old every year.
Oh, okay. So it's pretty
Yeah,
consistent tradition. You said your whole
consistent.
family would go out there, right?
Yeah, whole family would go out there, all my brothers, and like I said, it was an event. The limo would come and pick us up in the morning. It would be like a build up and anticipation. We'd be so excited for it because like we get the Game Boy and we get the game, and then we get on the airplane and the limo picks us up, and like you smell the fresh leather seats of the limo, and then you're in the plane, then you land, and it turns like everything was just always coordinated. And my grandma was excited to see it. So there was like time with grandma, and then you go to the big city of Vancouver, and that's where like all the action was. And we meet my uncles who are a little bit crazy. We go on bike rides, walk through the big town, um, and it always sucked coming back. Like we hated coming back so much. We just wanted to stay there for a long time, and it kind of made sense because like we grew up by the ocean, and this was our place, and it, different places just felt so outside of our regular zone.
So would your whole family ride in a limo?
Yeah, they would when the limo would come in the morning and pick us up, and yeah, we'd all go there, and then after that we would go to uh I think we'd go for 3 months. Sorry, not 3 months, 3 weeks to 4 weeks, and then we would have to come back, and then just knowing like you're coming back, and we would leave in the middle of July, we would come back kind of like first second week of August, and knowing when you came back you had 2 more weeks and then school started in September, you're just like, oh, and then it's like one whole year before you get to do it again. I'm just like, you know, get me out of here.
Pretty daunting feeling.
Yeah, totally was. So it was good. And in this place called Parksville, they had a skate park, and the people at the skate park, had long hair. And I'm kind of going there like kind of being around the influence as I was, and this people who would skateboard, like they'd smoke cigarettes, smoke weed, not wear helmets when they would skateboard, or like have their shirts off, dress totally different to what I was. And like I'm less than 15 years old at this time. And yeah, just going there, and like I had an older cousin, his name was CJ as well, but letter C and
Nice.
letter J. And he always kind of seemed like he was too cool. Like he would be around the family, but he'd be too cool with the skateboard. But then he would go to the skate park, and I always looked up to him. I think I was like 10 or 12, and he was 16, and I always wanted to be him because I'd see him at the skate park. He'd be doing his kickflip, and it just looked so cool. And then there would be these car shows too. So there'd be like all these classic cars that would come, and my uncle, the same one who is a mechanic who would do the sandcastles, I would walk with him to the car shows, and he would tell me all about the cars and stuff like that. Eventually he how many years later would that have been? Probably when it's 2011, so I would have been 20, maybe I was 20. He had passed away because he's been an alcoholic and he cut cold turkey. But we had so many memories of him there. So anyway, it was sad for the time, but we went to go see the movie Inception with him. And that was the last time that I ever saw him. And we said bye after that movie. So seeing that movie, I'm skipping ahead here a bit, but seeing that movie always brings back memories with him too. What I forgot to mention is when I was a kid in grade 5, he did magic tricks to me. And he would do this magic trick where he would hold a napkin like this, and he would make a fork float like from one side of the napkin to the other. He would attach it to a knife with his hand and just move it. But he would always show me magic tricks. And so from a young age too, I got into magic tricks, became obsessed with magic tricks. And I would go to this magic stop store. And another experience that happened is every March would be spring break. We'd have for a week. And my parents would go down to Toronto from Ottawa because all like the antiques would be there, the rugs would be there. It was the place to go. So they would take us there, and we'd stay in a hotel. And my this magic store called Browser's Den in Toronto, still around today, would be there. And there's this magician. His name was Jeff, and I would literally go there for the entire day, and he would show me magic tricks, and I would put magic tricks aside. And it was like one of my favorite childhood memories, and what I'd be excited for. Spring break, I'm off. Spring's on the way. It's magic trick time. And he would show these to me. It was like the ultimate toy store for me. So he would show me all the magic tricks. Then my mom would come, and then she would buy all the magic tricks for me. And it was kind of a thing of like, she got to buy the antiques, and like these magic tricks would come all to like $700 each trip. But I would practice the math for hours. Like we're talking sleight of hand, like David Blaine style kind of magic. And yeah, it was awesome. So still kind of have some of that sleight of hand today, but it was an awesome time.
That's pretty cool. Do you remember like what your favorite trick to do was?
Yeah, there was one called there's a few, but there's a lot with coins, like making coins. A lot of these magic tricks were handmade, so there'd be a lot of these handmade like silver, like handmade coins, handmade um like steel brass cups that coins would go into to make like it appear here, vanish, and go to another one. But there was this trick called Scotch and Soda where you can make like a coin go through a glass and pop up over the other side. And there was a lot of magic tricks where they would have like a gimmick with it, which was cool and everything, but like the true magic was with the sleight of hand. So I started with all the gimmick ones, but then I started learning the sleight of hand because then I could just take any coin, any deck of cards, or combine the two, do the magic trick, and then after everybody could examine it, it would be amazing. And after that, I started doing like, I'm going now to like 9, 10, 11, 12 years old. I would start doing magic shows for my dad's hotel at conferences. So there would be in Canada Day, Ottawa's the capital of Canada, the biggest fireworks in all of Canada. And on the very top floor on Canada Day, July 1st, all the most important people of the city would go there basically. They dress like a gala, and they would have like martinis there. It was like a scene out of Ocean's 11 or James Bond or something. So I would go around and I would show magic tricks to everybody. I would carry my deck of cards, and all my magic tricks would be hidden like the other room. And I would show magic tricks to all these people. And I think my dad paid me like $400 or $500 or something to go do that. But I loved it. And I loved doing the tricks to everybody, just seeing their reaction. And like I would go to restaurants, we'd have a waiter, I'd show him a magic trick, and he'd be like, "Oh my God." And he would have to go tell the chefs in the other kitchen. And like the whole restaurant just like exploded with excitement of all this stuff. So Yeah, I just love doing the magic for all those reasons, and kind of stopped as I got a little older. I don't know why. But even now, if I pick up a deck of cards, like I love it. Like if I had all the money in the world, I'd probably just practice magic full time.
Is there any like notable experiences you had, like where you did a trick and someone reacted in like a really spontaneous way or anything like that?
Yeah, we're talking like an entire restaurant just like exploding and like laughter and clapter, like like the chef should be cooking in the restaurant people's food, but the chefs are coming out to watch the match trick and like holding up the line and everything. Like it was crazy. Um, yeah, certain restaurants in particular it was like that. But I remember now I'm 16. No, I wasn't 16. I think it was 12. I remember Porsche was always my favorite car, and it was always my dream to get a Porsche. And I remember going to the Porsche dealership with my mom, and the guy there was really nice to me. And he let me sit in the Porsche, and the Porsche was like $130,000. And so I calculated how many magic shows would I have to do for children if I was to make a Porsche, if I wanted to get a Porsche. And I did the math, and I was so excited about it. But I never pursued the children's magic shows at parties. I was also thinking about going to a magic camp in somewhere in Canada in the middle of nowhere where they teach you like how to become an illusionist and like do onstage stuff. And I never did that either. And I think like something about the attention from doing all the magic, it was almost just like it was a lot of stimulus. And I kind of just stopped over time. Like it was great. So I never ended up getting the Porsche. Still working on it, but hopefully soon.
So you were doing shows in front of big groups of people. Were you were you pretty comfortable doing that? Like just in terms of like public
Yeah.
speaking and like being in front of groups?
Yeah, in front of groups, I got pretty comfortable because I was doing it's like the magic took the attention off of myself. So I got and I would see their reactions as I did it. And I just love the sleight of hand, like their attention's here, but I'm doing something with my hand over here. And I just love that element of it and just like the dance between like their emotions, what my hands are doing, and like kind of trying to control the room and their emotions. Cause that's what magic was all about. It was the social dynamics of it all and trying to direct people's attention to get that reaction from them.
Yeah, totally. And so moving more into like your fourth, fifth, sixth grade years, do you remember what teachers you had in those grades?
Yeah, I had a grade four, Mrs. Corbin, grade five, get her name. I know what she looks like. In grade six, Mrs. Beverly or something. Yeah, it was all, yeah, I remember those grades. And it was all good, but I just didn't really like school. Like I remember grade four doing multiplication and like I was just tuned out. I just wasn't into it. Didn't really like it too much.
Do you remember anything about the teachers specifically? Like, were they better than your third grade teacher?
They were, yeah, that was a big jump. Um, Grade five was my favorite teacher, but I remember actually in grade five, the teacher pulled me to the side and she talked to my parents and they took me for this test. And the test was about something about like they give you instructions and can you follow instructions? And they were trying to figure out, was it a vocabulary thing? Like, I don't understand the words that they're telling me. Or was it more of a like, I just can't follow the instructions? I kind of realized after, like, I prefer to just do things my own way and I can't listen to what people tell me because I'll just like tune them out at that. And this was just like intuitively felt. I didn't really know what was happening with me at the time. But that was I remember that in grade five, and I hated my teacher for it because then I felt below the other kids and I felt more stupid than the other kids. And I think my parents found out. But anyway, there was like a one time event and then nothing happened after the fact. So I remember after that time, like really focusing on, like, okay, whenever the teacher tells me instructions, I got to follow this or else my grades are going to be bad or something like that. Um, but yeah, that was an interesting experience too.
Was that a pretty big challenge that you went through in your fifth grade year?
I think it was. It's weird. I can remember a lot of fourth and sixth grade, but fifth grade's a bit of a blank. But I think I did. I think it was a bit of a struggle. And where was I? Yeah, I just think I didn't take school too seriously. Like I just didn't think I didn't know what it was going to lead to for me, and so I didn't fully plug into it. And like when I would hear somebody say like, "Oh, I completed my math assignment, this, that, or the other thing," I just didn't see the point. Like I was kind of the kid that was like, "Okay, Keener," like, but I wasn't the class clown either, or I wasn't like getting in trouble all the time, like being in detention all the time or anything. I was just kind of like I don't know. I kind of wanted to do just things my own way. I didn't say that to myself. It was just an intuitive feeling.
Was there any other distinct challenges that you had in like fourth, fifth, sixth grade?
I think I did. Had friends. I think there was a bit of bullying going on, but there's like a lot of bullying going on in that grade. I remember. I do distinctly remember when somebody sacked me because I sacked them, so they sacked me, and it hurt me so much. And they ran away. I was trying to run after them and punch them. Never caught up to them. Uh, yeah, it was. What grade would that have been? Maybe, yeah, it must have been grade 5. Around this time too, I also played hockey. So I did a lot of not competitive, but I joined like sports teams and we go away to like hockey tournaments and stuff like that too. So um so grade 5, yeah, I'm still quite young now. Grade I think when I was in grade 5, 9/11 happened. Yeah, I think it was 2001. I was in grade 5, so we had 9/11 happen. Um I still remember that
Remember where
day.
you were?
Yeah, I just remember being in class and the teacher saying, "So this has happened on American soil," and yeah, just not really understanding what was happening, but like it's not our country, so I guess we're safe.
Yeah. And then you said July 1st was Canada Day. I was curious like what that means for you guys.
Kind of like July 4th in the US, everybody drinks, everybody parties. Um, people know how old Canada is, but nobody really knows the history of it so much. But it's a big day of partying, it's a big day of celebration, and there's fire, especially in Ottawa. Like there's different. It's a like nationwide holiday, but in Ottawa is like where the big party happens, and like other people would celebrate, but like Vancouver, not really so much. Ottawa, a ton.
Interesting. And then kind of like going into sixth grade, you also mentioned you did hockey. Was that just kind of like after school or, what did that kind of look like?
Yeah, typically on the weekends we would have hockey practice and hockey games. Around this time in the summertime, I would play soccer, and then towards the winter time, it would be more um, of the hockey. And I remember my parents brought me to like these hockey camps, and they would be so intense because there would be kids who would be in um, like really well conditioned, and they've been playing a long time, and I'm just jumping on the ice, and you have to skid around pylons and shoot pucks, and for me, it was really intimidating. Um, so that was definitely really difficult, and that was a challenge. I think my parents wanted me to go to just to try something new. I really like soccer though, but hockey I couldn't stand just because in Canada a lot of kids would start at the age of 3, and if here I am now, much older, and just not feeling it so much, but kept doing it anyway.
Do you remember like any like awkwardness in like sixth grade? Because, this is like the age you start going through puberty and things like that. Do you remember any of that?
I think for me it was around the age of grade 7 and 8. I remember it most distinctively, like because we were in grade goes kindergarten to grade 6 was the same school, but grade 7 and 8 was middle school, and that would be those years. I remember going and like people's voices started changing. They started getting facial hair, especially they'd be the odd kids who would mature a lot faster than other kids. Like, they'd have like Iranian genetics, so they get hairy pretty quickly, or just like some of these other things, and like they get bigger quickly and stuff like that. So yeah, it was just it was different just being exposed to all of that, I think. And I wasn't there yet. Like my puberty was happening, I think, but just seeing that coming from grade 6 where it felt protected, it was a little bit eye opening.
Definitely like a different time of life, especially when you have like guys like that you're talking about, like they have like a full beard already and they're only like 13,
Yeah,
14 years old.
it's crazy.
Yeah. And then do you remember like any type of like emotional instability or like any type of instability kind of going on as a result of, those hormonal changes and things like that?
I do remember, yeah. It felt like I was stepping into the adult world of like this world I was once so used to like high school where there's people from all these grades and from all these different schools when you're used to just your own small little community and then your own friends from your original elementary school becoming friends with like these people and then this is where you start to see these circles start to form and these different groups of like you had the emos like already at that stage you have the nerdy kids the cool kids and yeah I was just trying to find that sense of belonging so I think going through that time too it was a bit of like who am I? What am I where do I belong? What do I do? In addition to the school stuff too. So it's a lot of focus on at the time. I think for me, I think it took me I eventually got used to it, but it took a little while longer.
Where did you find yourself like falling in terms of like social groups? Like, were you in one or did you dip your toes in several?
Yeah, I kind of danced between some not the emo one so much, but like I really want like a lot of my friends from the elementary school were in like kind of the cool sort of group. And like a lot of these people were like the football jocks with the girls would hang out with them. Um, so I really wanted to be sort of with that group, but I was kind of started getting into video games around this time too. So I would get a lot of invites to like parties or going out or like underage drinking. And I liked the drinking, but I just didn't see the point of alcohol. And I felt like when I drank it, I just felt worse. Or like they're starting to smoke weed around that time too. And it just wasn't for me. And so I wanted to be with them, but they would be going to all these parties on the weekend. And eventually you just kind of fall out of the loop. And then when you fall out of the loop, they might not send you as many invites. So it just became a downward cycle. So I didn't really do anything, but it was just like I just said no to the parties. I didn't go to them. I would kind of isolate and play video games. And I did some of that, but like, let's say we finally go to a party once every 3 months when they've been going every weekend. It's a bit like, like, oh, Riley, you're still alive. Like, what's happening? What's happening? You kind of get out of your social element zone too.
Okay. Um, yeah, so we were talking about kind of like your grade starting to like party and you weren't really having that. So what did you kind of do as a result?
I got really into hanging out with some of the video game guys, gamers, things like that, but that also felt kind of like not like me. So I found myself kind of dancing between different groups and never like solidifying into one. And yeah, I was kind of more of I don't know if I was necessarily a lone wolf because I did have core friends, but I really wanted to be like super popular and all those things, which I didn't have. And the harder I try, it just came off weird. So I felt like it was, yeah, mostly kind of the gamers I felt more comfortable with because I just kind of like to game anyway. But the popular guys, I go to a party or two and they would invite me. And I would go along, but sometimes I was a little shy because if you're out of that clique that in that mix for a while, it would it just would you just wouldn't be in that same social lubricant as you once were.
So is it pretty safe to say like you're just trying to like during this time, I think everyone's trying to find their identity, but specifically for you, like you're just kind of you're trying to figure out what path is right for you.
Yeah, exactly.
And in terms of like your gamer friends, like what did you guys used to do?
So we got into so what age one? So I guess I was 13, would have been grade. I think when I got into grade 7 and 8, that's when World of Warcraft came out. And that was dangerous because I started playing that game and now I could be like this real life character with spells and powers. and collect money. And this is like before the age of Facebook. This is like the MySpace days. And so not only do you have the same effect of Facebook, but you literally play real life characters with people and against people. It's like no wonder people got so addicted for hours. Like, and it just felt like I had all this power. So I got really addicted to that game. And then after school, I would go to people's houses who would like be playing, and we would play for like hours too. And yeah, it really consumed my life.
Is there anything you remember that you like really particularly enjoyed about World of Warcraft?
I like just the fantasy world and just like listening to the background music of these different zones you go into, and just like exploring these foreign lands, and like the stuff. It almost reminded me of the things that I would like dream of when I was, like a kid or something, or like when I'd be in Parksville, I would see like the mountains and everything else in the distance. It was almost like that, and you'd be on a screen. It would feel like real life because you were so immersed in the world, especially when you play for 8+ hours at a time. And then I started like dreaming about it, and because anything you focus on, your brain just rewires. So I think I just came so immersed in that world. So then it was like, well, what's the point of spending more time in real life when I could just focus more on this game? And I feel better when I'm doing it, but um yeah, just I got invited to places, even to play video games with other friends, but I sometimes would just prefer to play with my gamer friends on World of Warcraft. And to like go outside was such a chore because it got so comfortable just sitting in my room with like chicken strips and a Coke, when I could like, why would I go play basketball when I could literally just be, not far away and doing that. So yeah, it was that was a hard addiction to get out of. Let me tell you that. Yeah, because I was thinking about it all the time. So my grades took a tank. When grades went down, I started getting pressure from the outside. Then it was time to like start getting to university. And I don't know, just when you're out of the social loop for a while, then a couple of the health issues started. Like I started getting some stomach issues around later high school. And then yeah, I big dreams, but like I just didn't apply myself, and I found it hard to apply myself. And when you just feel lower on the social totem pole, your mind isn't always. I felt like my mind didn't turn on, and so yeah, it was just kind of a bit of a downward cycle. I didn't get into drugs or cigarettes or anything, but I just didn't apply myself.
So yeah, you brought up like chicken strips and like a Coke and like things like that. I'm just curious like how you were pretty immersed into the World of Warcraft. And I was the same way with video games. But like what uh what other aspects of your life were impacted by that? Like was your diet pretty good? Like how did your health look and things like that?
Yeah, diet took a hit. The one thing is, around the age of 15, though, I started getting into video games. It's not video games, working out. So I would go to the gym. So my style was kind of like going to the gym, pumping weights as like that activity, and then going to play video games, but never doing my homework. And I love the gym that we would go to because everybody went to this gym. And I'll never forget, it was this gym you go underground, and then it was like a big long strip mall, but the gym was underneath all the stores, so it'd be in the strip mall. And so it was a really cool gym, but you would always see everybody there, like all your friends after school on the weekend. So that became kind of the social thing. But I remember like my friends saying like, "Oh, it's Riley. I haven't seen you in ages. Where have you been, man?" Sure enough, it's just me kind of playing video games.
That's interesting that it was so popular to go to the gym at that age. I mean, when I started going to the gym, there was like nobody there. So
Oh,
like that
really?
was pretty normal in Canada. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, for us it was. Maybe it was like I don't know if it was just my grade or if it's a Canada thing, but yeah, it was so much fun to do that because you would see like your muscle was getting built, and then that would be my excuse, like I can play video games because and eat a bad diet because I'm going to the gym.
Right, that was your way to like balance it out.
Yeah, balance it out.
So that's kind of like your seventh and eighth grade years. And then you said that your grades kind of started to tank as a result. You know, you're just more like probably zoning out, thinking about video games when you're in school.
Yeah, exactly. It's on my mind all the time. My parents would tell me to apply myself, but I literally just didn't see the point. Like my brain was just I was getting constant dopamine hits, and to apply myself in school, it was just like pulling my hair out.
We kind of did like a combo with like your third grade self, but like, what would you, if you could go back in time and talk to your seventh and eighth grade self, like, what would you say to them?
I would say like enjoy the video games, like be a kid, but try and socialize more and like be more involved with the physical world. That would be my thing to him. And like video games are good, like enjoy yourself and everything, but applying yourself at those ages or like going to these social events, just have fun with it and like don't take yourself so seriously. I think like when you isolate yourself, you feel like I built up an ego or something, and then you go to people, you wouldn't be your true self, and it would just be a downward spiral. And I just kind of felt like I would act weird, like not like my true self. So I found myself trying to yeah, just be if I could tell them to just like play more, but work like play hard, work hard instead of like just play video games, be in between, and then like not do any of the other stuff. That was probably the biggest thing for me. But honestly, I love the World of Warcraft days too. Those were some great memories we had. Those big raids in Molten Core.
Yeah. And then I think at the beginning, did you say that your parents separated at this time in eighth grade?
Yeah, eighth grade, my parents had separated, so they pretty nasty divorce. Well, not divorce, but separation. And after that, didn't see my dad for a little while, and eventually did see him. But as the oldest brother, it was kind of this thing of like you're so used to your parents being together, like this perfect world, and then it's not that anymore. It's like, whoa, this is weird. And then me and my brothers are with my mom at this point, so you kind of feel like you're the man of the house now, and I've got like my younger brothers, so it kind of felt like there was a big burden that you had to take over with that. You had some shoes to fill. So I felt like I had to grow up at that point kind of quickly.
So did that kind of hit you pretty hard in eighth grade?
Yeah, that hit me pretty hard. I think that was another thing too. Honestly, playing World of Warcraft, it was just like, it was very stressful because my parents were going through stuff. There was, and at that point, that's when I started wanting to escape because it just became too stressful in my mind. And so that's when I really needed to just escape to another world where I didn't have to think about the stuff and just numb myself to the stress I was going through. So video games became a big escape for me at that point.
Then, kind of zooming forward a little bit, like how did you overcome that or kind of grow with that challenging of a circumstance?
It was tough for sure because then you start seeing like other strangers who your parents start seeing, and you're like, who are these people? And then they come into your house, or you're like expected to like them. And it was really foreign feeling to me. And you hear of like my friends would have step parents and stepdads and stepmoms, and like just didn't make sense to me because that wasn't what I was used to in the past. So to experience that at that age was really foreign. And so as I got older, was trying to assimilate it, but it was just kind of was hard. And so I just kind of stuck to myself. And for me, it was I never wanted to start any drama. I just didn't like the conflict. So just kind of stuck to myself and did my own thing.
I think divorce is like a really big thing in today's world. And, you're seeing like the divorce rates are continuing to go up. And so, as a child of divorce yourself, like looking back on it now, like how or what advice would you have for a kid who is going through a divorce and going through like a tricky family situation?
Yeah, it's tricky because it's like a lot of it's out of their control, and it's like, what do you do? What I would say is just like it's not your business at all what's happening outside of yourself. And I think that's more of a time. Like I felt like for me it was that was a time when I went trying to control everything, the circumstances, trying to get parents back together, make sure brothers are okay. But I think if I went completely 180 and I just focused on myself, and that's like my advice is like focusing on yourself, having fun, playing. And it's tough, like not worrying about it. Those are other people's issues, not yours. Um, is just going to help everything because they're going to figure their stuff out anyway. And whether you worry about it or not, and for you to unwarrantedly worry about that is just going to hold you back more. So I would say just act as if they're not divorced, as hard as that is, and just keep doing your own thing anyway.
So then this is kind of moving into like your high school years. Seventh and eighth grade was, a lot of video games and you had your parents divorce. And then like what did like ninth and 10th, 11th grade look like for you?
So I started getting into I wanted to start a job around this time, and I went to go apply to this place called Future Shop, which is basically like Best Buy, but Future Shop was a
In
step
ninth
above
grade?
Best. Yeah, it was ninth grade. How old are you? Are you like 14?
Like
Ninth grade?
15?
Yeah, 14, 15. Yeah, so it was around them, and went to go apply to this job, and it was a little bit higher up, like for this age to get a job there, like just be insane. And I tried my luck and my chances, and I ended up getting the job. And I was in the entertainment department, which is basically video games and things. But everything was on. You had an hourly, but then you had a commission basis too. And most of my friends were working at like a Pizza Joint or like Subway or like one of those types of jobs. But for me, I wanted to um, see what else was possible. It just felt like the years prior to that, I felt like I had some catching up to, and I was still playing video games at this point, which is kind of why I wanted to join the tech side of things. Got the job, and it was during Christmas time, and they just needed more help and staff. The idea was is they hire the extra staff, and like the one or two people that did really good, they'll keep on. So while I was there, I started doing magic tricks to all the staff throughout, and I kind of made a name for myself. I don't know if that was the reason, but they kept me on, and I stayed there. And I started working at Future Shop for 5 years. But being there allowed me to talk with people consistently, customer service, like through my actions, I would, it would lead to positive reactions and people would say good things about me. But then I would see where my weaknesses were too. Like I get nervous selling like a warranty or something for like a PlayStation, like the sales side of things. So I had to really learn that and those skills too at the time. Um, so it was good, but yeah, I made a lot of friends there, and a lot of those people were older than me too. So I learned a lot about music, about martial arts, about just really interesting conversations with some interesting people there. There was a guy who worked in the entertainment, and he was double my age, legitimately. And his name was Chris, and he listened to a lot of stoner rock. He did martial arts called Wing Chun, and he had OCD with bacteria. And so anytime he could never use a public bathroom, so he would literally walk outside, go under the bridge and take a deuce whenever he had to go. And so he made this name for himself of you know, he's taking a poop under the bridge. And but he was such a cool guy too. And I could see past this like weird thing he had, but everybody else could never let it go. And so it just kind of this weird thing of like he's the guy that poops in the woods, but he was just like such an in-depth dude. He read books all the time, very intuitive. I never wanted to be him because he was full of tattoos and he hung out with like the wrong people and stuff like that. But it's almost like the movie Fight Club. Like it felt like I was Edward Norton and I was trying to be Brad Pitt. It was like my alter ego. And he kind of played that sort of role. It was kind of that element. But anyway, yeah, from there I got really into music and all these other things and start exploring more of my intuition. Yeah, kind of like reading books, but like just making like a really good friend group as I was there, making money at the same time. From the age of 15, like yeah, they were some, especially during those seasonal years, like during Christmas time when I was 15, and then you would go out and like with your friends that you made there and like the Christmas party and but then they left and you wouldn't see them again because they were just there for the season. And some certain times it's just like a group of people where everybody's family. And that was just like a golden era of time that I'll never forget. But yeah, it was good while it lasted.
Were you doing like sales there or
Sales, yeah. Selling like video
really?
games, but like organizing, yeah. PlayStation, music. So you learn a lot about a lot different artists. But then there'd be like the TV department, the car audio department, the computer department. So you learn about the different things too. My goal was always okay, I'm going to transfer from entertainment, the video game section. I'm going to go to like car audio and I'm going to start selling on commission and stuff like that. But I started experiencing health issues around this time too. And I was getting tired like all the time. And it was affecting my ability for sales too. So they were basically paying me to keep working there. At the same time, while I was working here so much, I was supposed to be playing hockey, but my hockey skills were going down because I was working so much at Future Shop, and then my grades started going down because I was playing video games and I was working at Future Shop, and it kind of became a thing of like, am I going to be a lifer at this Future Shop place? Um, and I didn't want to be, but like I was kind of in a good rhythm, just like doing my thing, and but I had to go on to school, and grade 11 and 12 were coming up, which was very important for grades to get into the right university that you're looking for. So that's where I had to start rethinking things. Still step a Future Shop, but I had to do video games a little bit less and things. But the health issues were starting to pick up. Like brain fog was increasing. I'm pretty sure my house around this time mold started to develop. And I was just like, I was having brain fog like all the time. And I wasn't really sure. And I was trying to focus, but I couldn't. And I wasn't really sure why.
Yeah, what did that look like for you on like a day to day in terms of your brain fog? Was it just like super frustrating?
Yeah, that's the word. It was just very frustrating because I would want to do something, but I couldn't. And I had all these dreams and like goals that I wanted to achieve. And my goal was I always wanted to get back to Vancouver, where I've always been going every single summer. So the goal would be there was this university, it's called University of British Columbia. And it's literally like the dream of a university. Like 60,000 people go there, surrounded by trees, surrounded by the ocean. Um, and they released this video, this marketing video for it of like opportunities and people coming in from internationally and being able to go there. And it was just always my dream to go to Vancouver, back by the ocean. And then being at UBC, it was just like the biggest dream of mine of all time. And I wanted to do anything that I could to get there. But my grades were tanking because this brain fog that I was getting, and I wasn't sure what it was. And the more brain fog I had, the more anxiety it would give me. So I would go more to video games, and it just started that downward cycle.
And for like high school students, like you're obviously able to kind of diagnose the brain fog now because of your health journey that you've gone on. Like for kids who are in high school now and who don't really know what brain fog is, but might feel like they have something going on like mentally, like how would you diagnose, someone with brain fog?
I was like, what does it feel like type of thing?
Yeah, like what does it feel like? Exactly.
Yeah, it basically feels like you can't, like the basic things would be you can't remember people's names. Another example would be like, let's say you were just talking to somebody and you left them. Can you remember the color of the shirt they were wearing? What were their shoes like? What were the color of their eyes? But it's also just kind of like you're just stuck in your own world, and memory can be bad, and everything can just feel really foggy and hazy, and you're not like mentally sharp. And we all know what it's like when we feel mentally sharp. When it's not that, then we know that things feel off in that way.
And that's like that's not normal, right? Like not being able to remember things clearly.
Exactly. And so if that's happening, something's happening deeper down. Could be your gut, could be toxic to your body. Maybe you're living in a multi environment. Maybe it's micronutrients. But for most people, it's definitely not normal.
So what else kind of sticks out to you about your high school years? I mean, it sounds like you're working a lot at this new tech store, and I think you found a lot of like purpose and meaning there. And then you're kind of like, oh, I don't really want to be like a lifer here, so I'm trying to figure out my path moving forward. Like, what am I going to do afterwards? Um, what else does that kind of time span look like for you?
Yeah, so grade 11 and 12 come around, and now it like really matters about the grades and everything. But unfortunately, the brain fog started getting worse, and I was in the advanced classes to get into university, and I found them extremely difficult because of this brain fog, and I was getting forgetful. And I would just see some kids where they would like they'd be the popular students, and they would get the good grades. They're going to the parties, like everything felt so effortless for them, and I just couldn't figure out like, and they're getting straight A's. I just couldn't figure out like what the hell was happening with me, because I did feel smart, but it was just like this untapped thing inside of me, and I didn't feel like a stupid person. It just felt like it wasn't being utilized. So I had to I just kind of kept going more into the video games and kept kind of just reading my own thing, reading books about like stuff unrelated to school, fiction, nonfiction. And yeah, then I basically just had the grades to get into a program at university from grade 12, which was like an arts, I think like economics, like an arts degree. And it was always my dream to get into UBC, University of British Columbia. And I was in Ottawa at the time. But to get in there, you needed like an 85% average. And I think mine was like way less than that. Anyways, I didn't make it in. And that was my dream for years. And it destroyed me that I couldn't get into there. And that's where I went to this university. I was just always dreaming of the day I could escape, Ottawa, the small town that I'd been in for so long, super sleepy. And so I finally went to this economics program, and then I had to take these extra courses. I had to go to adult school actually for a period of time to get the grades to even get into the school, because a couple of them I completely tanked. And yeah, just not happy with my health. Parents weren't happy with me. It was just like, get me the hell out of here. I just wanted to check out. So then after that, what I did was started focusing on my studies more, got better grades at university, got into the finance business program, and then started working my butt off there. And then I kept trying to reapply to University of British Columbia, because once you're in another university, you could try transferring, but then you might actually lose credits. And I kept looking at this promotional video that they were always showing us. It was just my dream to get over there. Now we're kind of going to the university side, so I'll stop there on high school.
Okay. Like relationship wise, like how did that look for you in high school? Obviously, with puberty, you're starting to look at girls a little bit differently and things like that. What did how did that look for you growing up in high school?
Yeah, I didn't really have any relationships in high school. I think I was a good looking kid, and there was a lot of girls who had a crush on me, but I just like, they probably thought I was a jerk, but I was just like turning them down because I didn't want to be like, I just remember like girls would throw Skittles at me 'cause, it was like a flirty thing to do. Or like a girl would come and talk to me, and I like ran away from here as fast as I could because I wanted to show her how fast I could run. Just like, just random stuff. Or like, we went to a movie, like it would be around Christmas time, and the movie Elf came out with Will Ferrell, and it was like the opening thing. We're all at theaters, and she sat beside me, and I'm around all these girls, and I felt so awkward. And I forget what happened, but I acted like a jerk, and I didn't go sit beside her, and she liked me all throughout high school. Her name was Jess. Um, Anyway, she eventually found, I think girls just kind of gave up on me. So I had plenty of chances on the table. I just didn't seize any. Yeah, it was always just kind of my choice to like, I had the opportunities laid in front of me, but I never just like seized them. So I never actually really got into much of a relationship. Even like on prom, I went solo. There was a girl I had a crush on, but didn't ask her out because I was too shy.
Were you just like not interested in that at the time and it wasn't really at the top of your mind?
Kind of that. And it was also kind of like, I felt super shy in that regard. Kind of out of it with like some of the parties I would go to, but like I wouldn't go for a while and not sure if like my friends would be dating another girl. Um, yeah, it was it kind of just, I don't think it was like I didn't see myself as worthy, but it was more of like I'm just, uh, I don't know what to offer them. Like, for example, opposed to just like being myself and chill around them and things like that. But it was kind of like I had something to prove or show them, or it was just hard to for me to be myself just being around them. So like I had to prove something. So I think it's kind of a mix of some of those things.
What else were you kind of into? Were you into any like TV shows or movies or things like that when you were in high school?
Movies, yeah, like Lord of the Rings, The Illusionist, Prestige, all the Christopher Nolan type things. Um 2008 was when Batman first came out. So that was like my I was in high school when that movie came out, and there was a scene where it was in Hong Kong, and there was this helicopter, and I remember at that point it was like I fell in love with Asia right away and like this international mindset thing, and I couldn't make it to University of British Columbia, which is what I wanted to get to. So that was my way of trying to plant a seed in my mind of, I want to go far. So anyway, what movies did I like? Christopher Nolan movies. I never got into any TV shows like at all. Um, I know like around that time, Dexter was really popular, Entourage was really popular, Californication was really popular, but never got into any of those TV shows, to be honest. I preferred like a movie where I could just watch 3 hours and take what I needed out of it. I hated these like long drawn out shows. Yeah, don't know why. I just never got into it.
Do you remember Lord of the Rings pretty well?
I do, yeah. One of my favorites.
What stuck out to you about that movie?
Uh, I love the adventure. Like they would just be going to all these fantasy worlds, going through the forest, the talking trees, to the battles. It was just so glorious. It was really like the hero's journey, and I felt like I was going through a hero's journey, and I didn't know what the hero's journey was, but I felt like the stories they told in that movie from the struggles were so similar to the ones that I was going through. So I felt a deep connection to those characters.
Who was your favorite character in the Lord of the Rings?
I liked Aragorn.
That's classic. I always remember his sword that he uses in the last battle when
I know.
Eowyn's father presents him with the sword.
Yeah, it's really powerful because he really had that sort of king energy, which I guess I wanted to like embody or become. In 2007, actually, the movie 300 came out with Gerard Butler and Leonidas. And I remember walking into the movie theaters of that movie and just being like, oh my God, this is, so crazy. And my friends did a Greece trip. They're kind of like the popular crew. And I never got to go, and I saw photos, and I just remember that movie came out around the time. And I thought like, I remember looking up Google Images of Thermopylae Pass where the Persians were fighting the Spartans. And I thought like, man, it would just be my absolute dream to go there one day. Uh, but anyway, yeah, a lot of movies, and movies like Lord of the Rings was a big popular one for me.
So then he graduated, and it sounds like your high school years was kind of just focused on like trying to find you and find out who you wanted to be.
Yeah.
And how did that kind of form and translate into after high school?
So after high school, went into university in my core program. I felt like I could start my life new again. And I'm like, okay, this is the time that I'm going to be able to become myself and like do all these things which I felt in high school. It's just like reality slipping through my fingertips because of this brain fog that I always felt like I was having. So what I ended up doing is going to economics, doing some more courses, not really sure what I really wanted to do, and was working at this future shop place. And then I went into finally got into the finance program, and I felt like it was a little bit challenging because I still had this like health stuff going on, and I was trying so hard, and I couldn't figure out like how are these guys like not sleeping, doing all nighter exams, going out partying, drinking, hardly studying, getting these killer grades, and I just felt like I was everything was just sort of crumbling around me. So there was good grades, there was bad grades, but then around that time the movie Batman came out. Actually, grade 12 Batman came out 2008, I think. And so then I'm like, I just want to get to Asia. So it was weird. Around this time, there was this university professor who came from this really good engineering school, and they were doing this program of an exchange between a university in China and this university. And so I went to this talk. Before that, I went to this thing in Australia where it was kind of like saving the reef. And it was a presentation they gave. And I'm like, I want to go to Australia so badly. And I had a picture of a map in my room. And I'd always look at the map of where I'd want to travel to. And I saw Australia. I'm like, oh my God, the people there, going to New Zealand, Lord of the Rings was filmed there. How cool would that be? And then there was another opportunity, which was China. And I saw the movie The Dark Knight. And can you hear me okay?
Yeah. Yeah, we're
Okay, I
good.
thought I muted. Yeah, I thought I muted.
Yeah, I get it.
And and it was around this time that I wanted to go to China. So this guy had an exchange who is in a small city called Nanjing, and I had the opportunity to still living with my parents to be able to go study in China. And it seemed crazy, but I'm like, you know what? Let's just do it. So decided I was going to do it. Took out a loan of like $10,000, and was going to China. And everybody told me it was a bad idea. Didn't know if I really wanted to do it, but I decided to go. And this is kind of getting into China story territory now as well. Um, but up until now, I was working on like my grades and stuff was starting to improve. And I just wanted to get the hell out of my city. I didn't make it to University of British Columbia, which I hated, but at least the second best is I could leave my city, feel like I could develop a new character for myself and become the person that I really wanted to become. And you know what my dreams always were, which was basically like what I think like manifests into existence through my actions, which I never felt like was happening because I had this brain fog, this untapped potential, but it can never translate into like the physical world of what I wanted. So that was, you know, my big inspiration to be able to do this. And so that's kind of where all that started before now getting into China.
Was China at 18 or 19? Was it at 12th grade or after high school?
I was so I graduated high school. I think it was 18. When I was 19, I got accepted into a program, but I had to take some more classes. So it was kind of 20 when I started, you know, with basically China.
So then after, like that 19 range, like you're kind of figuring out maybe like who, even deeper, like who do I want to become? Because it's like, all right, we have the structure from high school. Sounds like you're still working at the tech shop.
Mm,
And so then, 19, you're trying to figure that out. And then 20, you're like, okay, here's this big opportunity.
exactly. Yeah. And just wanting to, I had all these dreams being built up, but I also wanted to escape just what I felt like I'd gone through. It just felt like there's a lot of bad memories and stale energy around those areas. So I just wanted to get out and create a new identity for myself. And that just felt like a better location.
Did you have any like notable influences throughout these years, like people that you were looking up to, like YouTube creators or entrepreneurs, things like that?
Yeah, there was the people that I looked up to were like the Brad Pitt types. Because not to use the example again, but like kind of my alter ego of like who I want to become of like there's a guy from a band called Queens of the Stone Age, Josh Homme, and he kind of had this like king-like energy, 6'5" band member, kind of an Elvis, like a true real rock star, and his philosophical insights that he would have and everything else. I resonate with him so much, and I watched so many of his interviews. Who else was getting into like yeah, just like different musicians, entrepreneurs. Elon Musk was kind of around the time 2008, you know, 9 was also the financial crisis. So that was also an interesting time. I'm trying to think. There was a lot of, but I just remember like a lot of musicians who kind of like step up to authority and do things the way they want to do. I remember just looking up to them a ton.
Where do you think your aspirations for like, having a big dreams kind of came from at this time?
It came from the biggest one was freedom. I just wanted freedom of my own time. Nobody telling me what to do, not having to rely on any systems, just complete freedom, autonomy, and control of myself. And I where those were coming from, I think it was just yeah, I'm not sure, but I knew that's something that I want.
Yeah, I asked because like There's a natural inclination, or it's not even a natural inclination, but like it sounded like you weren't really wanting to go like the 9 to 5 route. Like you wanted freedom and you wanted some
Yeah.
more flexibility in your life. So I'm trying to figure out and kind of parse out like what kind of drove you to want to pursue that lifestyle versus follow the blueprint that
Mm.
everyone else kind of typically follows.
I think for me, I was so sick of like me trying to fit into a system I felt like I never could necessarily do. And uh if like the way I saw that before was like an inadequacy, but I realized after that it was more of a around this time that it was like something that I really wanted to pursue, like my gifts to give to the world, like when stuff is done on my own terms. And if I can do that, then that's where I thrive at my best. And I wanted to be at my best, and I wanted to be like just winning, because it felt like there was just loss after loss after loss, especially with some of the health stuff going on. So that was a moment for me when I don't think I realized I want to be an entrepreneur, but I want to be like entrepreneurs, like what they're doing with the freedom and everything they're doing. And I remember getting thoughts around that time of like, how can people just live in a small town their entire lives and not explore what's outside there? Like, why are more people not curious about this thing? Like, how can someone just go to a 9 to 5 job and feel fine with it? Which I have nothing against. That was just my mindset at the time. And that's when I realized, like, I don't know what it is. I don't know what's out there, but something exists and I got to go find it.
Then like in terms of like your family structure, how did that kind of devolve as you go out into like 19 and 20?
They started, it wasn't like full blown yet, where I was like, it was just stuff I started thinking about and reading about. I started reading a lot of books on freedom, people who started their own businesses, and stuff with like the digital world and the internet. Like, what can we do now? The 4 Hour Work Week was another major book around this time. Tim Ferriss became obsessed with, and it was just like so cool of this globalized world, how we can make it in our favor. And my parents, they didn't think much of it at the time. They just wanted me to do good in school, and they didn't realize I was thinking a lot of these things until it was time to make the leap to go to China soon. That's when stuff was getting serious. But before then and up until that point, it was kind of more chill. They just knew I was Riley playing video games. They didn't know these other aspirations I had. It was stuff I was always thinking about. I wasn't necessarily actioning on them.
Gotcha. So then we get to 20 and you take this big trip to China and let's explore that a little bit.
Yeah, so get on the plane, go to China, and my parents are really scared for me. So I fly from Ottawa to Vancouver for a week, and I developed this super bad flu. Like, I'm totally clogged up. Both my ears are hurting on the inside. I have a massive headache, and I got a 13-hour flight to China. I think I have to fly Korean Air from Vancouver to Tokyo. I think it was Tokyo, Seoul, Korea to Shanghai. Anyway, getting to Tokyo, I'm kind of amazed by Tokyo and like the food and the Asian airlines. It was so different than the North American airlines I experienced. I'm like, wow, it's such a different and more luxurious experience. And then going to, after that, went to land in Shanghai. And I'll never forget, I walk off the airplane and there was this white guy who's speaking Russian and Chinese. And I'm like, whoa, this is so cool. I want to be like this guy. And this was when I first just got off the plane waiting for a taxi. And immediately when you get off the airplane in China, you smelled like the pollution in the air, the oil in the air, uh, just the nitty gritty of it. It's something I still remember to this day. So I get in a taxi. I have the Chinese, don't really understand it. So the taxi driver, we get to the hotel, drive to the hotel, get to my bed. I'm just like so sick. My ears are hurting. And I'm lying on the bed, and there's these fireworks going off at 3 in the morning, and I have no idea what's going on. Um, and they are in the middle of a festival in China, because that's what Chinese China loves to do is these festivals all the time. Little did I know this festival was going on for like another 3 or 4 days. I think it was like pre-Chinese New Year. Oh, this stuff was starting to get pretty serious. And I'm just like, I can't sleep. Air conditioning's not working in the room. I'm sweaty. What the hell am I doing here? It was at that moment I feel like I made the worst choice of my life. And this is Shanghai. It was an international place. So following morning, I'm sick. Fortunately, they had this spa. I'll never forget this experience where, like, you go to the gym alone. I went to the spa and I had the complete place to myself, and the the ceiling was these murals that was just like so beautiful. And if anyone's been to China or Asia, everything is just so opulent. They're like four times the size of the average hotel that's over here, like over 1,000 rooms sometimes. And the pool and the hot tub were just like so grand and so massive, so luxurious. And I just felt myself just being there, like recharging it as I'm lying in the water and trying to map out like, who am I? Who am I becoming? I'm here by myself. It's kind of lonely, but at the same time, I'm trying to become this new person now. So I kind of had like the past and the future sandwiching themselves, and I'm stuck in the middle, and I just didn't know what to do. And it brought up a lot of anxiety and like existential angst. Um, so anyway, went from Shanghai to a small city called Nanjing, which is my final destination. No white people in sight. Stayed at another hotel. I think I was 5 days, and I had to find a place to live because the hotel was full, or else I was technically going to be homeless. So anyway, I met the general manager of this hotel, who is a New Zealand guy, and his wife was Chinese, and his wife brought me to go get a cell phone, like all the survival things, which was awesome. So I got really lucky there and went for brunch with the general manager because my dad knew him. Just sent him an email, and then after that, went to back then there was no Airbnb or any of these things to try and find a place to live. There was forum boards. I'm in the middle of China, and so I had to use Google Translate in Chinese to try and find a roommate to a place to stay before I had to check out of this hotel. So I literally had to days were ticking. I was nervous, and my parents were on me like, "Did you find a place yet? Did you find a place yet?" I finally go on the forum boards, and it's this lady. Her name's Lucy Liu, and she was in her early 40s, and she asked me if I wanted to stay with her, second bedroom. So she shows me the place. I had no other choice. I'm like, I'll take it. She spoke perfect English, and she was kind of like a bit of a mom to me, but sometimes annoying. But she had a friend group too of international people who were Germans, and a lot of these people are still some of my best friends today. And we went out, we would party together, we would have like 7 a.m. nights together, and I truly felt like I found my tribe of people who are internationally mindset like me, and who were after the same thing as I was. And it truly felt like at that point I found my family.
It's pretty cool. I mean, all in kind of one trip. How many days?
Yeah, it
So, how many days did it take you to find those people?
was about 3 months being
I thought
there.
you said it was a
First two
10-day
months,
trip, right?
10 months.
Oh, 10-month trip.
Yeah, 10 months. So I
Gotcha.
was
Okay, and
actually
then it took
I
you
was
three
studying
months.
abroad. Yeah, so I was studying abroad actually at the university there to take Chinese classes and some business classes. Um, and first 2 months was me just kind of getting accustomed, and then by month three I started meeting more people.
Okay. So then, after you find your people, you kind of got this 7 months of kind of a lot of enjoyment, a lot of fun that you were having. It sounded like.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, a lot of partying. The stuff that I felt like I missed out on in my early years, I was like experiencing it now, and it felt like my old self was coming back. And I met my people, and we meet these international people from Europe and these international hubs, and met Germans in this Nanjing city. And we would take the train to Shanghai, and we would go party in Shanghai. And you would stay at these hostels you could barely find. You would walk through these narrow alleyways with these like Chinese lanterns hanging. Just like the vibe of the place was so cool. And like one of the first nights I was in Shanghai, I was so sick, and I wanted to go see this band called Lamb of God. They're like a heavy metal band. And I didn't have a ticket, but I wanted to go see them. So I took a bullet train to the to this hostel in Shanghai, went to go stay in Shanghai. And then I had to get a taxi to go to the venue, but I couldn't find a taxi. And this old 70-year-old man pulls up, in a tuk tuk. I get on the tuk tuk, and he's driving, and I show him the address in Chinese. He knows no English at all, and he's weaving through traffic. Thought I'm on the verge of like being killed multiple times. Anyway, we finally make it to the venue. Still no ticket. Go up the stairs, and there's a guy there. He's like, "Hey, man, do you need a ticket?" I'm like, "Yeah, I do." So I got the ticket. I go in, and they start the first song like right away. It was such a perfect moment of, and it was one of the best shows of my life. Um, just like the energy there and just the spontaneity of it. It was really cool. Just just being sick and going from that to culture shock to seeing a show like that, and that was one of the first experiences. I'm like, I made the right choice coming here.
Yeah. Well, with that, Riley, we're kind of coming up on time.
Cool,
This
man.
kind of flew by.
Yeah, it went by fast.
Well, if you're open to it, dude, I'd love to have you back for a part two, and then we can kind of divulge from where we're leaving off today.
Yeah, I would love to, man.
Okay,
Great questions.
cool. Yeah, I'm gonna hang up on here real quick. Thank you so much for coming on the show, and for the crowd or the audience listening, we'll have a part two scheduled, and look out for that next episode. So, thanks again, Riley. Appreciate you, man.
Thanks. Really appreciate it.
All right.